breakfast consultative meeting, and I wish you fruitful discussion. You're most welcome. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, the minister will be making our remarks. He's at the airport receiving the president. He's coming anytime, but we couldn't wait for him for him. At the time he comes in, we shall invite her to make her remarks, but we can start as we shall be moving. The minister will come in and she will make her remarks. So let's start our business, and the minister will find us in the middle of our discussions. I thank you.
Secretary, the Presidency, and members, I think with the interest of time, we have the main presentation. It is going to be made by the Director, Economic Affairs and Research Office of the President, Mr. Vincent Musime. Please step forward to make this presentation. It is a lengthy presentation, so I would ask that we take notes, and then we have the comments, and then the panel discussions will allow us opportunities to comment. So as he makes the presentation, take notes, and we get to them during the panel of experts discussion. Vincent.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. Protocol observance. I'm making this presentation on behalf of the Minister for the Presidency, and the views that will be expressed are those of the Presidency, not mine. I felt I should make this disclaimer. This is not a rocket science, and it's not a solution in itself to policy management or policy governance. But basing on the experiences of what we have been finding out from our monitoring and evaluation exercises, we felt we would come up with something like this, which was welcomed by Cabinet, and now we subject it to some kind of appreciation, a comment, at least on how best it can be implemented. But we hope that we shall benefit from your comments. So I'll quickly do an introduction and background of the Office of the President, then take you through the problem context and strategic response, and then the goals and the strategic objective of the APEX, the implementation plan, and the expected outcome and impact or results. So the Presidency consists of 5 boards. I felt I should make this clear so that the Presidency, including ESOL, State House, Uganda AIDS Commission, Ethics and Integrity, and External Relations Organizations, it has 5 votes. And the vision of the President, of the Presidency, is a secure, well-governed, and developed nation. The mission of the Presidency is to provide leadership in public policy management and promotion of good governance for national development. I think that should be aligned. And then the mandate and functions and powers of His Excellency the President and His Excellency the Vice President and those that work under them are provided for in the Constitution under Article 98, 99, and 108. The oversight role of the Presidency. The Presidency has been involved in oversight role of managing public policy. and also doing some kind of oversight, monitoring and evaluation. But from an oversight space. And in addition to the Constitution, both the frameworks of NDP-1 and NDP-2 implementation and M&E frameworks clearly stipulate that the presidency takes overall leadership of the oversight, monitoring and implementation of government policies, programs and projects which actually constitute the National Development Plan. The presidency does this through a network of RDCs, the deputy RDCs ISO network, and other agencies like the Directorate of Socio-Economic Monitoring and Research, and the other units under State House and Office of the President. Despite our hard work in the Office of the President to try and monitor the implementation of government programs to ensure that they are effectively implemented, we continue year on year to receive the same comments. I mean the findings are the same. It's just like changing the date and then making a photocopy. Because the findings are the same all over, and when we even try to borrow it from or to read the literature of what the development partners write about our implementation of government programs, still the same mistakes are repeated. So we are having repeated challenges of implementation year on year. And so, for instance, the IMF and the World Bank have written extensively about how a lot of money that gets meant for development ended into waste. For instance, the World Bank of 2016 mentioned a report, that's a report on Uganda. It's a very country report that all investment over a decade, over the past decade, for every dollar invested in Uganda in the infrastructure, only 7 out of 10 of a dollar is generated. And the same report quoted that on average, Uganda would be developing on average of 10% if the inefficiencies, especially in development investment, were to be addressed. Then when you look at the IMF report, it indicates that 50% of public investment resources end up into waste. According to our own mid-term evaluation report of NDP-2, it is also very clear that 50% of development interventions may not be implemented by end of the NDP period. So the story is endless. If I was to capture what Bama has written, what EPRC has written, what the Auditor General has written, what the academia have written, even my very own Professor Ngobia has written about the problem with Ugandans economy, if you read his report. And he's seriously arguing that the problem could be agriculture, I mean not commercializing agriculture. But somehow, maybe as we get into the discussion, I will try to defer with you. The problems lie somewhere on project design costs and time overruns due to length of approval processes, corruption, ineffective coordination of implementation along the program life cycle. So this has remained a challenge. And when we look at this graphic representation also made by the World Bank, we clearly see where the problem lies. Because when you look at Uganda, when you look at the graph of Uganda, you can clearly see that Uganda has high appetite for project selection, but less appetite for project operation. One wonders how that one will be possible. But it is possible because it is important. You see, we have high appetite for project appraisal and less appetite for project selection, high appetite and less appetite for project appraisal. And we more or less have no appetite at all for impact or outcomes. And when we look at countries that are being quoted as being at least doing fairly well, like South Africa and Ghana, you can see there is some kind of a balance. So, and we know it, that the development budget of Uganda is reliant on loans, specifically from the World Bank, IMF, Islamic Bank, ADB, and recently China. So clearly, in Uganda, the problem is really not borrowing, but how the borrowed funds are being managed and utilized. And I think we could do better. So the inability to sustain a culture of collective approach to problem identification and collective responsibility to address identified implementation challenges is also one of the main issues that is affecting our performance. So most development projects in Uganda are risk appraised. And we have testimonies to this effect because we are Office of the President. We are not implementing, but we do oversight. And we have testimonies to prove that the projects, most projects are risk appraised. And certainly if projects are risk appraised without involving the people who would like to benefit from them, then what do you expect? So some of these projects, in most cases, they develop weaknesses from the word go. So there is urgent need to create a model for justifying projects in relation to the values they offer to the citizenry and continuously subject performance reviews to the theory of change so that we can be able to learn from our mistakes and successes and also continue to link inputs, outputs, as well as outcomes. Clearly, I still repeat that the problem is not borrowing, that it's somewhere. We have individually, as researchers, academicians, research institutions of government, written about all this, but at the end of the day, we continue to have similar problems coming up. So, as Office of the President, for us, we have come to a conclusion that the problem is around here. A lack of adherence to the principles of managing the project life cycle. And we strongly believe that once we adhere and effectively manage the project or program life cycle, most of those problems are going to be solved. What am I trying to say? Every project that is initiated should go through these four quadrants. These four quadrants. The project should be diagonized or should be initiated. What do I mean? As it is being initiated, the people who are initiating it, sectors, should try to find what the problem is or what exactly is the need for intervention. Then the root causes for that intervention need to be clearly understood. And the sectors themselves should come up with the most feasible options that they should sponsor for funding that will address this intervention that has been initiated around here. And why do we say that the problem needs to be known? Because I see medical doctors in this room, you cannot treat a disease that you have not diagnosed. So you cannot start funding a project that you don't know its objectives. Once you do that, you know that you have got it wrong from the word go. And as government, I think we can do better. Because commercial banks and other people, even on an individual basis, when you're investing, you try to at least define why you need to build a house, why you need to buy a car. You don't just go because you have money on your account and you say, let me buy a car. So we must, first of all, understand why we need those interventions and what are the root causes of this, and then we get sure that the medication or the feasible issues, recommendations we are making, options we are creating, are going to address exactly this problem. So this is the work we expect in the presidency. We expect this work to be effectively, the capacity should be built here for both MDAs, that's ministries, departments and agencies of government, including local government. We expect the National Planning Authority to develop capacity for institutions here to be able to design those proposals, so that as these proposals go for designing, because if it is a repeat project, if it is a repeated project, like you make the successor project to another one, you could subject it to a theory of change, so that you take lessons from what you didn't achieve in the previous intervention. But if it is completely a new project, we would expect to see a design and budgeting of what has come from the sectors. And then the budget will be given, and then we will see the implementation taking place here, and then we will see the results analysis taking place here. And then we will be sure to get effective results. But what we see is the other way around. We see a project being budgeted for before it is initiated. And then the money comes, it gets on the account, and it cannot be disbursed because the project has got to be initiated. And to me, I think the problem lies here. And if we can do better around here, then the problems, sincerely, if this economy could grow at the rate of 10%, then we would be doing far better. Yeah. Then, now, we have also a challenge in government, whereby you find everybody running around, because this graph is not so clear, but at least it tries to map from input, activities, outputs, outcomes, and impact, and impact at the end of the day. So it clearly delineates the role of implementation from the role of results. So in other words, it would be wrong to see somebody running from here to here. I think we need as a government to try and devise the mechanism of collaborative arrangements among institutions, so that we do complementary role. You find that a ministry is producing a report, and the report is being used as an input for another ministry. So from inputs up to results analysis. Now, this is some kind of thinking after looking at all those problems that we are facing. We sat down and came up with what we have termed as a fish analogy in the presidency that will lead us to the Apex platform. What do we mean? We try to trace to see, maybe this is some kind of a theory of change, trying to see where exactly do programs start from. So we realize that this column is where the pressure mounts into the mouths of the fish. And this is the ideal time because we are working on NDP 3. So we try to come up with a national development plan, which national development plan should dictate on what interventions we should actually implement over the medium term. But really, this is not always the case, because as we finish the NDP 3 framework, of course soon there will be pressure to come up with the manifesto of the ruling party, and to also come up with its own pressures into the mouths of the fish. As you are there, you cannot stop the happenings of Budunda and other natural hazards from happening. So once they happen, they also mount pressure into the mouth of the fish. And of course, as the head of state goes around the country and being a 14 of honor, he finds some things that he feels he should address, and somehow, or even the cabinet in its wisdom, they make cabinet directives that also mount pressure in the mouth of the fish. So we said, I think we need first to understand how to reconcile the priorities here. And I think this is clearly the work of National Planning Authority, which tries to harmonize the pressures that try to mount into the mouths of the fish. Then Ministry of Finance, certainly with its various sources of funding, from the external sources, from the internal sources, it tries to harmonize these pressures by coming up with a priority list. And as it comes out with a priority list, it of course pushes out those that are not a priority through the guilds, and those that qualify, they appear on the fiscal space that the Ministry of Finance declares as the fiscal limits that we must observe as government. But now, as those plans and projects get into the body of the fish, the digestion takes place around here. So that's where the work is being done. That's where all the activities are defined, and that's where the outputs are done, and that's where we would expect the Office of the Prime Minister to play a very, very great role in trying to work with the sectors, coordinate them with the assistance of the delivery unit, and try to make sure that the activities are aligned to the outputs, or the inputs are also clearly aligned to the outputs. So here we would be seeing National Planning Authority communicating to Ministry of Finance, communicating to OPM. But now what happens is that here, as the projects get into the bottom of the fish through the digestion, and we go for GAPA, we are told how we spent the money that we allocated to all of us. And now, instead of trying to push ahead to find out what this has translated to, we all run back to mount pressure into the mouths of the fish. And it becomes an annual routine, running back with our budgets. From GAPA we run back, from GAPA we run back, from GAPA we run back. So nobody bothers to follow through and find out what exactly happens from what enters into the mouth of the fish over the period of time. So this, we have classified it as for the time it has been for a while orphaned space. And the presidency being everywhere, because the president is a 14 of honor and is everywhere. He owns the plan, he owns the money. You know, Minister of Finance is delegated. It is actually the president who is the Minister of Finance. He just delegates those powers to the Minister of Finance. And of course, he appoints so the president is everywhere here. Now, the president said, since in the visible space of the fish, this place is orphaned, then now the president said, who is we now, working on behalf of His Excellency? We are saying, let's position the Apex platform here and see what takes place in the visible space, so that we can start on an annual basis looking at the outcomes and also looking at the impact that came out of the interventions. So effectively, next year, we shall be taking stock of all the projects that were implemented under NDP2. NDP2. And we shall be handling them at the sector level, specifically to try and understand what outcome came out of them and what the impact these interventions had on the communities. But this is not the only side of the fish. And of course, if the things were to be normal, we would expect the implementation to follow the lateral line, which is always straight, described by red. But what we are seeing is the zigzag lateral line, explaining the rampant poor service delivery that we are seeing all over the country. Now, we also note that this is not the only side of the fish, but it is the most visible side of the fish. When everybody, when the academia, when the civil society, when everybody is talking about government, this is the side they tend to look at. But there is the other side of the fish, which is also very crucial. Now, this side of the fish has the state and non-state actors that are not actively into the implementation architecture of government, but they oversee. On the side of the state actors, we have, of course, Parliament. They play the oversight role. We have the Office of the Attorney General. They are always there to mitigate. And then the Ministry of Public Service, UBOS, to map the numbers, and of course the Office of the Auditor General, who normally does the annual audits. But then when you come on the side of the non-state actors, we see we see research institutions, we see civil society, we see individual researchers and academicians, we see the private sector, we see the NGOs, we see the development partners. Now, the most important thing is these people are doing quite a good job for government. They are writing journals, they are writing reports, they are ever trying to understand what is going on, and they come up with very good recommendations that would actually help government to implement its agenda. But rarely do we utilize their recommendations. We end up at launching their books, they send them to us, we put them in the shelves, and we continue to refer to them as and when we want, but we do not come up to look at these recommendations and take them seriously and try to follow up their implementation. So, is an effort to try and capture this effort, engage the civil society, to try and engage the state and non-state actors who are not in the implementation architecture of government to contribute to the implementation framework of government, especially through utilization of implementation recommendations, so that we can be in position to improve the implementation process. Now, what is the Apex platform? The Apex platform is just a short word for an executive platform for collaborative learning, uptake, and utilization of evidence from technical reviews of government performance and independent studies and evaluation. It advocates for a holistic and collective stock-taking of performance successes and failures of government, take informed strategic decisions for improved implementation of government programs, enhance communication to the citizens on the status of government performance and enlist responses from the beneficiaries, and promotes also reforms needed to address the identified challenges facing service delivery generally, so as to try and actually avoid a repeat of what is coming up. So basically, this is what we call, this is the framework that was approved by Cabinet into policy. And we are scheduled to hold the first ever Apex around March, and our focus will be on the Ministry of Agriculture. So, the interventions that have gone into the Ministry of Agriculture over the ADP period, this could be project-based, it could be sector-based, it could be program-based, depending on what we shall have resolved or what the management of presidency will decide. So, now, how is it going to look like? This is how it is going to look like. It is going to be held at a sub-cabinet level. Sub-cabinet level because we want instant decision taken and directives given. And the person that will be in the chair will be none other than His Excellency the President. And we shall require National Planning Authority to tell us what they had planned for this intervention in question. What had you planned? How was it achieved? What was the problem? To share the lessons learned here. And we expect we shall write office of to the Minister of Finance to respond by taking us through how this intervention was funded. And but because we are seeing compliance gap widening, now it is doing a little bit better. It is coming from worse. We expect some bit of either contradiction or maybe some reasons why the budget is not aligned to the plan. And of course, the Minister of Finance will have better reasons for that. And then maybe decisions will be taken with the aim to try and narrow the gap between here. Now, we shall also require Office of the Prime Minister as the leader of government business and as a coordinator or monitor of all government institutions to come up with a high-level performance report with the input of GAPA, supplementive GAPA reports which they do annually, with the, of course, supported by the delivery unit, to come up with a report informing us about the interventions, the assessment, about the assessment of this intervention according to them and what came out of this intervention up to at least immediate and intermediate level. Or maybe what has come out of that intervention. Now we are talking about agriculture. We shall all be focusing on the same thing. Now the Office of the Presidency is creating a platform for the state and non-state actors to try and also give their views on how they saw this intervention. We shall read any report, any research data available, be it even academic research available. All the development partners reports available. And we shall also, where need be, conduct our own independent studies to try and validate the information on the ground to come up with valid evidence, because once we come here, this high-level independent oversight, results decided and reported by the Minister for the Presidency will be evidence-based, and it will be informed. But unfortunately, the people in the non-state actors quadrant, the other side, will not be invited to this round table, because this is a round table for government, and it's a sub-cabinet. But before this report gets here, there will be a validation workshop bringing together all the other people to try and validate that their recommendations were appreciated and used to inform this report. But in this gathering, we shall have these institutions invited as observers. That is to also take it, because they are key stakeholders in one way or the other. The Minister of Public Service, the Office of the Auditor General, and the Attorney General. Now, what do I mean here now? We are like next year, we are going to focus, the sector in focus will be Ministry of Agriculture. So, at the, when we are discussing the interventions here, we shall expect all the ministers and the permanent secretary of Ministry of Agriculture to be here. But they will not make a report on their own. Their report will be read for them by the Monitor of Government, who is the Office of the Prime Minister. And that report, because we are seeing a lot of poor service delivery across the country, we expect the report that will come mainly from the chain of RDCs, ISO, the civil society, and others, in most cases is likely to contradict the government architecture report done by OPM. But the intention will be to try and narrow the gap between these reports so that they can read into each other. And the more the gap narrows, the better the service delivered. And here, the more the gap narrows, the better the effectiveness of implementation, the better the alignment of the budget to the plan, and hopefully the better the growth in the GDP. And basically, that's the framework which we are calling the Apex platform. So the Apex platform, in brief, is the Executive Public Policy Management Oversight Platform, which will be shared by the President with these 4 institutions of government, which are key to any implementation. That's the Ministry of Finance, National Planning Authority, Presidency, and Office of the Prime Minister, with the ministry or sector in focus. Basically, these are some of the things we shall expect, but of course we shall fine-tune them, but we shall be expecting NPA to tell us what was the plan, how and what was planned, how it was delivered, what were the challenges, and report on the lessons learned, and then proposed mitigation measures, if any. And then we shall also expect the Minister of Finance to give us the status of the budget in response to the planned intervention. We shall expect, of course, a cumulative report of OPM to also be followed with maybe a summary of the lessons learned, which we could base on possibly to align the lessons learned from the interactions with the civil society and other independent studies. So basically, that would be the work and of the platform. And these are some of the, of course, we are still thinking aloud, and that's why we brought it here. But what we expect to be the expected outcome is executive directives to be taken there and then for implementation, to try and align budget to plan, align outputs to plan, and possibly try also to address some, maybe even take punitive decisions where need be. And then we expect to have a directives implementation status report. This will be coming on the subsequent Apex forum, so that before we get into the business of the day, we shall have to first make a review of the implementation status of what had been directed or decided on in the previous Apex forum. So the outcomes are basically improved participation of non-state actors, academicians, researchers, development partners, and CSOs into the government implementation architecture, and improved alignment of national budget to the NDP, improved output alignment to plans, effective utilization of results across program life cycle, and capacity building along the program life cycle. If I could take you briefly back to this life cycle. The challenge we are having in Uganda here is having a biased capacity building. When you look here, this is the quadrant that is occupied by Ministry of Finance. You find that actually there is a lot of competence building here in the quadrant of Ministry of Finance, and they have built capacity. But when you get to the sector, capacity has not been built. When you come here, it is it's budget, and then here it is almost not there, because the ESOs, the RDCs who are doing all this kind of work have not been trained. So, and the principle dictates that if you are looking for results, you must develop capacity along the project life cycle. And with one-sided competence building from one quadrant, certainly you cannot expect anything. So, brothers and sisters, I would like to believe that once we try to understand the problem around here, and then we build the capacity around the project life cycle in equal measures, we should be able to achieve the desired results. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The West Africans say you can't accuse a hungry boy of dreaming about bread, and we can't accuse the office of the presidency for coming up with these innovations. So this is the end of the first session. The participants who just joined us, you're welcome. I've seen a lot of people from the National Planning Authority. You're welcome. So let's begin now the second session. I want to introduce a giant of policy in this country, Dr. Ramadan Godi, to step forward. He's going to invite experts who've been pre-selected to guide this discussion to the front, and please let us engage in this discussion. So the next session, Chair, please, you're welcome, and thank you for that.
Thank you very much. The manager, the MC Director of Ceremonies, the Honorable Minister of State for Economic Monitoring, the Office of the President, all senior leaders in the House. Good morning to you all. I thought we had some good breakfast. We are discussing the future of Uganda. We need to have some good energy. So we are going into now a conversation about this idea which has been presented to us, a very good idea that already has been approved by Cabinet. We want to dissect it and see how do we take it to a level where it can bring us results. So on the panel, I have the following people. I would like to invite them to come forward, and we get into business right away. I've seen Dr. Joseph Muvawala entering. Dr. Muvawala is the Executive Director of National Planning Authority. You're most welcome, Doctor. I haven't seen my good friend, Honorable Wategeka. When he comes, you can choose this time where you are comfortable. Thank you, sir. I have also Dr. Ezra Munyambonera. He is Senior Research Fellow, Macroeconomics at the EPRC, Economic Policy Research Center, which tries to give us evidence-based research to inform policy. He's representing the ED of EPRC. I have Mr. Ashaba Hamilton, Commissioner, Department of Projects and Public Investment Management at the Ministry of Finance. economic development and is representing his boss, the director budget. He's going to tell us how these projects end up being funded when they are not initiated, among other things. We have also, I haven't seen him. Let me first call my good friend, Mr. Patrick Chichocho. He's a budget policy advisor at CS Bank. CS Bank tends to bring together the brains about budget and is representing the executive director of CS Bank. I don't know whether Dr. Muhumuza has already come into the room. When you see him coming in, tell him that he's needed here. Mr. Richard Soachidi also, I haven't seen him. When he comes in, same message. As well as Professor Ezra Suma, who is heading the delivery unit at the Office of the Prime Minister. I actually prefer to be very far from these gentlemen, so I'll remain here for a moment, and then we have our conversation. Dr. Mwala, I'm going to start with you. You know very well what the presidency has been putting together. I'm sure you have been part of this journey, the Apex platform. First of all, give us your overview in terms of what you feel about this idea of creating a platform of what I will call the Big Four in the government of Uganda. The Office of the President, the Office of the Prime Minister, the ministry that has the money, as well as your organization, NPA. What do you take out of this idea?
I thank you very much, and I want first and foremost to apologize for being late. It has never been my style. Ladies and gentlemen, regarding the Apex, I'm going to concentrate on a few things. One, mandate. That is the constitutional mandate of the Office of the Presidency. The Office of the President as the fountain of honor to perform oversight responsibilities. If we all agree that that is a fact, and I want to see by show of hands if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, you can put up your hand. Then this meeting should close. We shouldn't be here discussing, taking a lot of our time discussing a fait accompli. The Constitution mandates the President to do oversight of all institutions and all organs of government as the fountain of honor. How the President's office chooses to do its work is a business of the President's office. We have to be very clear. They are not coming into this space to take the space of anybody. In fact, what has been happening, in my view, moderator, is that the Office of the President, I'm going to use this word and put it, and the director knows, has been sleeping.
You are putting it in quotes.
Yes, in quotes.
Where are you putting it?
Else I would be talking freely. Now, and they are now taking their space to do oversight function. And I don't think anybody should fight this. Because the problem has been that along the mandate, institutions and organs have been doing mandates outside their function and failing to do their core mandate. I'm going to start breaking one by one. Prime Minister's office is the lead of government business. If you're a lead of government business, should you implement? You really have a conflict. You are leading the business and you're doing the business itself. How are you going to lead others that implement if you are doing the business itself? And then along the way, the office is caught up in crimes that should be entered by implementers. The lead of government business is also in the same crimes like other implementers, which compromises their position. Now, because the presidents have not been doing their work, the Prime Minister's office has also been going into functions that should not be theirs. Implementing impact evaluation.
Okay.
Yes.
Why has the presidency been sleeping? Is it also suffering from the same disease like OPM?
You know, I think it is the office bearers. Because the function exists, there is a director. Now the director is doing his work, and some of us are trying to fight the director from doing his work. Because this is his work, for God's sake. So the bottom line is, because of that, if I'm in the Prime Minister's office, I'm now also attempting to do impact evaluation instead of concentrating on checking on what the other business implementers are doing. So in my view, this is a welcome idea. It's a very good idea. We have attempted at this several times. We have created a delivery unit in the plan to help the Prime Minister undertake the function of coordination and M&E. That should stay. The Minister of Finance has created BAMO to help the Minister of Finance get formative evaluation and M&E for the budget. That should stay. Sectors must continue monitoring. But also remember that we are moving into a program approach. Program means that we are going to be working for results. We are not going to be working for ministries and sectors. If it is poverty, we are working on reducing poverty. And no one single ministry or sector can tell you that they are working on delivering poverty. So the most important thing now is that the Prime Minister's office is going to be the program leader of all the scheme programs that we are proposing. Because no sector can boast of doing the entire spectrum of the outputs. Therefore, what we are calling for is that now the Prime Minister's office must do program leadership. They should be well funded, well facilitated to do M&E, and then coordination of all programs. Because the question I would ask you, who would report the results for poverty in this country? It has to be the Prime Minister. So in the apex that has been created, all reports to the apex must come from the Prime Minister, not the sectors.
Who's reporting the poverty figures?
Everybody does. Thank you.
Thank you. I will firstly give you a breather, and I will first finish it off with it. I will go to the finance. You take it away from there. What do you think this idea is likely to achieve? Is it a good idea?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. The problem of public investment management in the country is well understood. And I think listening from the presentation by the director, I'll just add a few things, and there are not many. Because the context he gave, especially of why projects don't deliver and results, and why we even go for financing when we are not ready, are some of the things we are trying to address under the leadership of finance and National Planning Authority, especially in the context of the new NDP3. By having at least a standardized way of doing things, ensuring that projects are prepared before you go for financing, because I think that's indiscipline to do that. Building capacity across government so that projects are well implemented, well executed, and they produce results. So I think the context is good. Now let me add just my thoughts. Of course, we are not very hostile to the idea of large finance, at least, of Apex, because it's complementary. However, adding from the ED, NPA, just a few things as some form of caveats to this. One, we need to have a well thought out division of labor and mandates. Because it's like for every problem failure in Uganda, we think we should create something sure, maybe sometimes not. Like the ED has indicated, there are pockets, or even more than pockets, of interventions across government. There's work being done by OPM, work being done by NPA, Ministry of Finance, and the sector ministries. So, in the fish analogy that the director elaborated on, we need to be careful to see the value that this Apex is adding beyond what has been there. Because I think the failure of what has been there to ensure that programs and projects produce results might not be cured by the Apex if it is not well grounded. Now, related to that, I think the Apex might, in my perspective, actually, to be doing the role of the delivery unit. And we need to rethink what the delivery unit will focus on moving forward. Because you see, the delivery unit, but when you contextualize it from what the Malaysian people do, they call it fast results, something, program for fast results. It is centered around the presidency, so that gives it the power to move key projects. They don't go for the entire government business, but they look for flagship projects under the presidency, because that's where the nucleus of power, I think in Malaysia it's the Prime Minister. So that those key projects become the catalysts for the economy, and they must produce results. They must move on time, on budget, and be of good quality. So there is a need for the Apex to harmonize with the delivery unit, so that we have a very good vehicle for driving the...
Are you trying to diplomatically suggest that the delivery unit should move from OPM to OP?
Doctor,
all right.
Okay, fine. Let me continue. Let me continue.
Sorry,
You can stop.
you can address it.
Delivery. Now,
yes. Let him finish.
Just a few more things. Again, related to that, of course, is there is a coordination failure, of course, across government. Because agencies are not connected. You can imagine, it takes on average like 6 months to get a clearance of approval from Solicitor General. And Solicitor General is very near, it is in the Central Business Center. From getting things done, like issues of land compensation and all those things. And yet, the ministry is there, supposed to do all that. So I think for me, again, the Apex would be resolving those key things which have remained endemic in our way of doing business. Then lastly, is to do with project management. Ourselves in the Treasury and our colleagues generally in Planning Authority have been building some capacity across government to ensure that projects are appraised, there are feasibility studies, only projects that are viable, the kind of things Dr. Agog teaches, then good net present, positive net present value, the internal rate of return is good, go into the budget. But nobody is thinking about the soft things, the soft skills in project management. Who is the project manager in Uganda? Is it a friend of the PS or the minister that becomes the project coordinator manager? I don't know. Some things have been resolved in the spectrum of procurement, auditing, accounting. At least there's a set of skills you must possess. But project management, I don't know. Some of them are usually smartly dressed. So maybe if you are smartly dressed, you become a project manager. I think also that's a lingering problem that the Apex might need to address around that. So that these project coordinators maybe are well skilled, and we should know, maybe moving forward, they should even be certified project managers. There are even professional courses like project management, PMP, where you are taken through the kind of skills you require so that you are certified to be a project manager. I thank you very much. I think let me stop there for now, Mr. Moderator.
But before you completely stop and declare, there is a key issue which came out of this presentation. And I know, by the way, I've been also doing a study looking at the implementation challenge in Uganda. We shall be calling you next month early,
Okay.
when we are releasing these results with the Frederick Ebert Institute and the MOOCs Economic Forum. And we are seeing this very issue coming out clearly in these results of Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, budget department. Finance, first of all, budgeting before, and they go ahead and release money for projects that have not been initiated, that have not been appraised. And then they start working backwards. What is the problem? Is it the pressure? They say the pressure which comes in. Or the problem is in-house.
Thank you very much. Just in a sentence. Of course, those parachuting projects are there. The political economy projects, and maybe not only here. You can imagine if you are a civil servant in USA and Trump wants to build the wall. What do? You let him build the wall. So political economy.
Now come home.
Now come home. Look, what the director did not raise, in addition to, of course, the politics of projects, is that you still have a huge volume of public investment being funded by donors, and they're the big guys. So what has been happening is that these donors, again, of course, most of the projects become donor-driven. By the time you know, the World Bank Board has done what? Certain approved projects. So what we need to do as a country is to move faster than them, so that most of these projects, if you are well prepared, at least they are aligned to your plans, they are aligned to your programs, so that you simply do not accept. Otherwise, if you do not do that, they are also in the world of business, and that's the whole truth. There are some people who have done research, and I think if you go deeper, my friend here has done a lot of good research in public investment management. I am telling you, the power of the donors for countries which are still donor dependent is very real. So what some of those countries need to do is build capacity so that you also counterbalance that power in order to ensure that projects are aligned to your programs and your needs.
Thank you. Thank you. I come to Dr. Oh, no.
I want to,
the delivery.
first I want to thank the Commission. Every time you hear people say donor pressure, it is equivalent to lack of capacity in the country. I have not done research, but I've worked for the African Development Bank, and I've written projects on the African continent. Every time I come to a country, and I find a weak civil service, my views are going to take the hit. Because when I'm dispatched from my headquarters I am given $100 million, which must go to Uganda. I am also given a date on when to deliver that project to the board. For God's sake, I have a job to protect. And I'm coming in this country where people are weak. We've seen countries where we write minutes for them, when officers don't want to do any kind of work. So the bottom line is, you don't want pressure, have capacity to counterbalance what is coming from the other side. Because the other side is very prepared. And they're also keeping their jobs. And I kept my job for 6 years, doing the same thing. So now, I want now to tell you one thing.
But before you go to that one thing, the IMF.
I don't talk about IMF, I talk about the bank I work for.
The IMF actually, just this week said, countries like Uganda should stop spending money on foreign consultants.
Yes, I agree with that. Why should you spend money in this country? No, it depends. It depends. If I'm doing an independent evaluation, I can't do a midterm review myself. I've been written the report. But if you're spending money on appraisal, when you have a Muvawala in this government, it is a shame. They do it for other countries, and I'm not doing it for my country. Why should we do that? We have a lot of capacity in this country. We are not short of that capacity at all. I can assure you. I've worked on this continent, and many people work in this country enjoy it. Because we have a lot of capacity.
So going forward,
now, delivery unit
should stop that.
Let us go back. You know, every time you get lost in the woods, it is better for you to go back from the beginning of your journey. Because in this country, we are lost in the woods. There is a thesis which is developing here, that there is duplication by having an apex body. I want to dispel that thesis. Let us go back to the fundamentals. What is the mandate of the office of the president? Who is the appointing authority of every civil servant in this country? I don't know if anybody knows this. Some of you think you are appointed by Public Service Commission. Those are delegated functions from the president. Some of you think you are appointed by boards. Those are delegated functions from the president. So who appoints all of us? I want answers because I'm also a teacher. Who appoints everybody, all of us? It is the president. Who is in charge of oversight, not monitoring, not coordination. Who is in charge of the overall coordination of government?
The president.
The president. Now, if we are, and this is not, the apex is not an authority, it's not what? It is organizing the Minister of Finance, the NPA, Prime Minister's office. These powerful entities in government who are not talking to each other very well. They have been given a platform to sit in one room and make one decision and work on results for this country. And call on the sectors. For example, if we are going to start with the Minister of Education, which I know very well, the Prime Minister should be telling us what is happening with learning outcomes at P3 and P1.
The Prime Minister.
Yes. That way, we are making the Prime Minister stronger. Because instead of the Minister talking to us, it is the Prime Minister talking. So we are helping his coordination role. Instead of the President creating other units that are duplicating what we do, by having this apex and giving the President results, those units' mandate will be washed out. Because if I'm the President, I want that on construction, and the Minister of Works cannot give it to me. I form a construction unit. Isn't that what we do, all accounting officers? If public service does not give you enough people, what do? We start contract, we use words, what is it, voluntary, whatever. But what we are trying to say, we don't have enough. And who doesn't see that we don't have enough staff? So the bottom line for me, the issue of duplication does not exist. As the presidency, they can pick all the reports we do and use them if they exist. If they don't exist as the presidency, they should have the mandate to commission people to get these reports. Okay. So for me, what I'm saying, to help the direction, because I'm in charge, of impact evaluation of government. That's why I was created. Then I should do more impact evaluations, which I feed into the Apex. Thank you. And I'm seeing my sister, my mother here, and elder sister. She's in charge of Bamau. All these reports that she's doing and nobody is caring about, it's the work of the Apex to follow up. She issues close to 30 reports. They come in small books to our offices, and then you read them and say, oh, good English. Who is there to follow up? Because the Prime Minister is not the appointing authority. He can't sack a PS. Can he? He can only recommend to who? So, for me, I want the argument here not to be about whether there is duplication. Minister of Finance must continue doing monitoring of the budget. The Prime Minister's office must have its delivery unit to help it coordinate and do M&E. Planning authority must continue doing its work to plan and then check the efficacy of the plans and the policies. And work with the private sector to feed into the Apex. If somebody is going to find money for oversight, let all that money go to the Apex presidency. If presidency wants me to do an impact evaluation, for example, in decentralization, they should finance me. Why should I hold the money? For what? For the sake of signing on a check? So I am begging that the discussion rotates around making sure that this concept works. Thank you. Because it makes the president the president. Thank you.
Dr. Ezra, you are saying this Apex platform is aimed at facilitating the utilization of the research that you generate so that it can inform policy. First, do you think your research has been in vain? And two, do you think this will therefore make it utilized to inform policy? And generally, give your overview of what you feel about this idea.
Thank you, Chair. I start from where the chief planner of this country is lamenting that it's not being effective. And two, it's true that because your work is not being, your presence as chief planner is not being utilized across MDS. Now, if you look at, say, talking about Prime Minister's office, from your assessment, it's about maybe its capacity. So when we are talking about this, we should also look at the capacity of Prime Minister's office. Do we have the right human resource to deliver the results? That's number one question. And it's across all MDAs, not only Prime Minister's office. And that's where the role of the NDPA and the Minister of Finance comes in handy. In terms of research, results and findings, it's not only Economic Policy Research Center that does research. There's a lot of research done across academia, MOOCs, all of that. Of course, the utilization of this research has been wanting. Probably the approaches, they are not, the channels through which this research is disseminated has been lacking. I would think having a platform like this that addresses how to utilize evidence-based research for policy, it would be important. To what extent will this research reach out to the wider public so that we inform policy according to evidence? So yes, there is a lot of research out there, and every year, different research thematic areas are agendaed. There are research to do across informing national NDP3 and all that. So we have capacity in the country to conduct research, and then the platform is an area where different research experts will always converge to disseminate and share their findings and how they can be utilized across MDAs. And that's key. So the Apex comes handy because we have been actually all crying, lamenting for the last NDP 1 and NDP. Probably this right time for the presidency to think about it. And this will correct all MDAs, all experts together so that there is a mechanism of supervision and overseeing accountability, probably conducting monitoring and evaluation based on evidence. And this is key. Probably we can move on to another level of budget implementation and results. That's number two. Now, in terms of oversight, there are questions which came from the presentation. Is oversight linked to development outcomes? Have you been seeing oversight, the budget implementation, linked to development outcomes? What are we overseeing? Is it budget utilization? Is it gross outcomes? Is it other development indicators? I think the recent budget process is talking about business what? Outcome-based budgeting and all that. And that maybe could be that instead of looking at budget utilization every time, we look at what are gross outcomes and all that. And that can come when our fish model, if we link our fish model and come to the circle, then we may deliver better results. But in here, these institutions, I hope institutions are going to be spread their roles. Instead of duplication, instead of you find across MDAs, you find like Prime Minister's office does monitoring and NPA does monitoring and all that. Let's try to have synergies and where we can instead results to make impact, but scattered results may not actually help this country. Now, the issue of capacity. The Minister of Finance has talked about the attempts to meet build capacity under the investment section. But this is an area where actually it's lacking. So if it is NPA and the Minister of Finance, then we need a comprehensive analysis of what the capacity gaps are across MDAs, across local government, because most of the budget is implemented at local government. So we need a very comprehensive analysis so that, and we see capacity gaps so that we develop the human resources out there. Because if you look at the report saying that we are losing 50% of the budget, and by the World Bank reports and the IMF, we cannot develop that. So instead of spending 100% of the budget, we might change our budgeting structure. If we are losing 50%, that means that we have there's something going wrong. So if 50% of the resources are being wasted, and you are consistently budgeting every year, so there are issues to address. And if other platforms are failing, I think APEX is the right way to go. And this makes sure the presidency does its work, and the NPA is given its mandate to play a monitoring and evaluation role so that it informs policy. So the issue of duplicating monitoring and evaluation, everybody is doing monitoring and evaluation and all that, and there is no harmonization of this information. May not read our public finance management to give us better results. The last one is about sequencing and prioritization programs. If we look at any NDP1, any NDP2, I hope program approach and NDP3 is addressing that. If we don't adhere to sequencing and prioritization, then we might not also achieve better results. And we're addressing it in NDP3. So the best way to actually harmonize that one will be through the APEX, where NDPA will give its position, what they think should be the priority for the country, other than scattering resources here and there. At the end of 5 years, you are seeing results at 20%, far away from the targets. I think those are my few observations from this presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ezra. My good friend from the civil society organization of the CSBAC. Actually, lately you have been very instrumental to CSBAC in monitoring how the budget is doing and also advising government. You have had the idea of APEX. We all know the problem of Uganda. We are spending a lot of money, but we're not seeing the results in terms of services and the outcomes. People getting richer, people getting healthier. You know, I know to some extent some results are there, but they are not satisfactory. What do you think this APEX is going to change in this whole equation? Are we just chasing a tail, or it's a very good idea?
Yes, thank you very much for that wonderful question. First of all, I want to thank the presenter for a very wonderful presentation. I'm saying this because the presentation did identify the correct problem, and for me that's where we should start from. There's a very good problem analysis. There's a very good understanding on what needs to be done, and aware of the prominent role of the Office of the President that was well articulated by the Executive Director of NPA. I think if we move in this direction, the APEX will provide a very important platform where most of the problems that we have identified in various reports that are being made, and various recommendations that are being made will be addressed. What I see as a missing link so far in this discussion is the institutional analysis as regards to how this platform will work. Already you have seen the Minister of Finance and NPA having, on this platform, having some little bit of sparring on some of these points. My colleague from the Ministry of Finance is saying they are not very hostile. Not very hostile to this idea. Maybe they are still a little bit. And that is the general feeling generally in government program implementation, where most departments feel that they need to do this and the other is not supposed to come close, where people have marked out territories and are implementing programs and activities of government as entirely their own. Yes, and I think the program-based planning and budgeting that has been talked about will be very instrumental in ensuring that we start looking at public programs implementation as really a program. And then when we are doing evaluation, we are looking at results of the program as opposed to results of a commissioner, so and so, results of ministers, so and so, and the like. So I think the program-based approach needs to be supported. I've seen it in the budget call circular, although I have seen at the same time that the money is still going to be allocated, not according to programs, but rather to the bonds. So going forward for the next financial year that is starting and beyond, we need to start seeing plans, programs budgeted as such. Because if we don't do that, then we are going to have this other part of the sea of programs and also the other part of resources on the other part of the sea, and them not meeting and achieving what also be able. So, but back to the APEX. I must say that you have started very well by mentioning the word civil society organizations. Civil society organizations have been lacking in many other platforms. And as such, government has not benefited.
But we are not invited. You see that?
Yes, we are not yet, but yes, but the fish, when you look at the fish, the impression I get from the presentation is that civil society organizations and private sector organizations will be given space to contribute to this process. As to whether we'll be part of the committee, that's an issue because you are not the decision makers at that level, but that's the implementation arrangements at that level will dictate on how, on the role the different stakeholders will play. But we are happy to learn that the APEX will provide a platform where government bodies will present their results, where private sector organizations will present their results, and where civil society organizations will present their results. In my view, that is a very good start. But what we would want to see as civil society, again, is how that is going to happen. Is there going to be a formal structure that will be discussed by all stakeholders, so that we know that we are not going to simply put on suits and making appearances, as we often do, by the way, in many other spaces, and ultimately we go on. We have many recommendations that have been presented to Parliament. We see Auditor General reports, the issues that come from there. We see many other issues that come from many other reports from Ministry of Finance, from National Planning Authority, and at some point, there is no convergence of some of these issues where they meet, and at the same time, where this can be resolved. So, if this Apex will provide that, we're very glad. But at the same time, the framework that we are talking about should be able to spell out mechanisms where effective follow-up of the decision again that will be made at that level will also be implemented. Because I mean, some decisions have been made, like on Auditor General reports. Parliament makes these decisions. Well, government responds in the Treasury memorandum. But who then follows that after that? So if we also do not think about the follow-up mechanism, I know we shall have the Apex decisions to be made at that level, then follow-up will become a challenge. So back to the Executive Director, I think the significant part of the Apex, in terms of its impact, will depend on the extent to which decisions made at that level, from the findings, from the results, and from the analysis, will be implemented. If they will not be implemented, it will simply be another platform where people will meet and have tea. And then afterwards,
by the way, you are raising something, and I want you to kind of deliver it properly. When I was listening to this presentation, I saw that the Apex is going to, the platform is going to focus mainly on generating reports. Number 4 by the OPM, High Level Annual Performance Assessment Report. Now, are you a bit worried like I do that this Apex platform might end up with the main delivery being reports?
Yes, that's a very main worry. And for me, that's why I'm saying that there is need for, number 1, general understanding of this concept by relevant institutions of government, as we have already seen some little bit of sparring already in this part from finance and from APA. And I guess there are many other divergent opinions about this across government. We also need to have an in-depth understanding of this by stakeholders beyond those who are in government. Number 2, we need to have clear understanding of the framework on how the interventions of this Apex will be implemented. They have talked about the high-level reports. I don't know how high, how low they're going to be. But if the concentration is going to be simply about looking at reports, and here and there, then we will have some little bit of a problem. I would imagine.
You know, I always want clear recommendations. In other words, what we are asking, reports have been there before. They have been compiled by these very areas before. But those reports have not brought the results. So what is missing there, and how do we get it? And that should be the role of Apex. Who's going to sack people who don't work? Who is going to reward those who have performed?
Yes, so I think the reports have been there, like you have already said. So the missing link is who is looking at these reports and enforcing recommendations that are made therein. And if the Apex can provide that leadership, we'll be glad to see it.
I think, moderator, this is a serious question you're raising.
Switch off that one.
The question you're raising is whether we have rewards and sanctions regime in the system. Constitutionally, there's been a problem. It is a constitutional issue. You have the leader of government business, and then you have the president, and you also have the vice president. The executive authority rests with the president, but the prime minister is the leader of government, business. Leading people he cannot sack. We are not here to deal with that constitutional issue. We are here to find a way around those issues.
You're trying to maneuver.
Yeah, we have to maneuver. Life is about maneuvering. By the way, you don't maneuver, you're finished. You're not going to get a perfect constitution. We are here to see how do we work for development results. Bottom line. If I'm wrong, the presenter can tell me. The bottom line, how do we move away from the self-assessment, as the people call it in the GAPA, of budget utilization? I use the 100% of my budget, and then we call all what? Chief administrative officers and whatever, and we spend how much? I don't know. A lot of money. Talking about utilizing the budget. If the Apex is going to talk about utilizing the budget, then they better not start. Because it would fail from the day it starts. The Apex must only talk about results. Let us accept that as this country, we move away.
How do we achieve it?
Yes, it is simple. Who appoints people in this country? It is the president. If he's chairing this meeting, and we are giving him information, year in, year out, that this PS is not performing. He's the fountain of honor. He's the one who goes to look for votes. If he doesn't sanction, the board rests with him. But the duty, what we have been failing to do, is to give this president credible information that Muvawara is not performing. So the problem is, Muvawara stays in this position because he comes from Musoga and he has a constituency, and therefore he cannot get it.
Thank you. You have said it.
Credible information, and who is giving it? Because now, these reports have been there, but when I issue a report, people say, my brother somewhere else can issue another report, which is counter to mine. There must be somebody who looks at all these reports and says, by the way, Muvawara is right. By the way, Ashaba is right. I mention his name because it's my uncle. You have to be very careful because I can lose my wife. But, so the point is here that credible information, sanction regime. And I want to address the issue of civil society. You know, I made this comment to Parliament and I lost it. And I'm a free mind, as you know. When we started doing the NGO bill, we used it as a security tool more than an alignment tool. Me, I'm a free soul. I say what I think is right. Civil society, bring implementation capacity, bring analysis capacity to augment what we do. They bring resources. The resources that civil society get are national resources. They're not theirs. The implementers, they get this money from somewhere and bring it to this economy. Now ask me a question as the head of planning. Can I add up all that money and I know how much it is? No. The answer is no. I don't want to ask my boss in finance because I might lose my job. The point is, we don't even know how much money is playing in this space.
But they don't want to bring it like
No. We are coming. I'm now proposing. Because this is going to be this work. And the bottom line has been that some of us have failed. You can read the NPA Act. Number 7. It says that working with civil society and the private sector, we will assess government performance together. Now, where have I failed? And the team there. We have put in place a structure that can allow these people to work with us to assess government performance. Now, if the president comes and does the report on this one, who is to blame? It is Muvawara who is failing to do his work. Now, what happens right now, after leaving here, the detail that he's talking about, we need to go and find all these spaces. UNPA, what is in your mandate? What have you been doing about civil society? If you have failed, can we then find within yourselves how we create this structure such that you do your work? And then that report can now feed into the Apex. Otherwise, I would support the Apex to do some of this work we have failed to do. I have no question about it if we have failed. And for me, I think, sir, the issue of monitoring, let us be clear. I think we are messing up fundamentally. Monitoring is an operational thing. Everybody must do. It's not a crime for everybody to do, but we are saying duplication. There's no duplication in monitoring in this country. I want to tell you, but there is duplication. There could be a conflict of interest. If Prime Minister's office does an impact evaluation on the work he needs to implement, when you have a permanent institution you put in place to do that, that's where there is the duplication. But on monitoring, everybody must do. Even the President's office will do monitoring to check on which reports we are giving them. So let it be clear. And I'm an expert in this area. So let me use my expert advice. Let people not talk about duplication in monitoring.
What is the duplication?
The duplication is in evaluation and impact whatever. Because if you are an implementer, you shouldn't impact evaluate yourself. Because this is simple logic. I have implemented a project and I'm the one saying it has worked. Everything is okay. No. In practice, no.
Dr. Mboa,
yes.
The reason I'm asking you that question,
yes.
In September last year, government, through cabinet, they resolved to rationalize.
Yes.
Yes. Overlapping mandates, implications, wasted resources, doing work over others.
Yes.
Where are those areas? And why is government fearing to implement even the rationalization?
You know, if the moment you rationalize monitoring, you're killing government. Rationalize duplications within agencies. There are duplications, of course. There is one that I always talk about and people get very annoyed. People get very annoyed. In this country, we create agencies that are supposed to be time-based, and we leave them to survive forever. Privatization. It is still living. When we are even reversing, there are people working on privatization, for God's sake. So there are things like, what is the difference between the data and voice? Now, does anybody know? The difference between data and voice. Those things are converged. Should you have two authorities, one regulating data and one regulating voice? Is it complicated? Maybe this Apex will help us. Because some of us, when we do the things, they say we are sided. But it's fundamental. When I ask something, what is this? Road fund. What is it? Do you need an authority to allocate money for maintenance? Because the fund is not operating as a fund. What they are doing with the big board and with the EDs is to sit down, ginger district X. That is the work of the desk officer in finance and the desk officer in Ministry of Works. So the truth of the matter that we are failing to implement rationalization should not be an excuse of us not thinking about business in this stuff.
I like you for speaking Now, you can say, first, I don't know whether we have a representative for Office of the President, because the number, they are big four, rather the Office of the Prime Minister. They are big four guys on the Apex, but one is missing on this table. Do you want to come and fill in for Professor Ezra Suluma? When he comes, he will vacate. If he doesn't come, he answers his questions.
Those are very big shoes, but...
Come and defend the OPM. Defending, you have a short number of plates. You're welcome. I also I would like to invite one representative of the development partners, Mr. Thomas Tidman, who's the acting head of cooperation at the EU, to come and also represent the development partners and we see how they look at this fish from the other side. Welcome, Thomas. You can sit anywhere you want, but you can sit there so that I can see you, sir. And he's representing the ambassador of the EU. Now I want to start with you, okay. You have had the fish, and everybody is talking about the roles which we should play, but there is a fundamental comment which has been made. And it's not just a comment, but even researchers actually found it, as you will find out a little bit later, that the office of the Prime Minister has maybe over they have gone from the mandate they were given to do. They are doing it, but they have been distracted a bit by implementation. You have a number of ministries now in the office that are doing the work that you are supposed to be monitoring. And how do you monitor now yourself when you are implementing? How do you comment on this? And also the overall idea of the Apex platform. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator and the presenter. The question you are raising is a very big question, and it has been on the table for a while. It's not a new question. And this issue has been raised even by Parliament several times, the Presidential, the Committee on Presidential Affairs, and even on the in the plenary Parliament. However, it's related to what Dr. Mubawala said. This is a responsibility of the appointing authority. And these matters have been brought up to him. He has been informed many times that the Prime Minister's office should not implement, but he's the one who assigns the Prime Minister to implement. So really, I don't think this question can be answered at my level. What I can state here is that these matters have been tabled at higher levels, and but I think you need to understand the political economy of business in this country. The function of implementation of special programs is placed in the office of the Prime Minister, to address political economy issues, and those are very important, I think, for the stability and for the growth of the country. So I think there is also a justification by the appointing authority for doing that. So
I'm showing you now that you are getting overcrowded, over-constipated, and you can't do the other role you are supposed to do.
That is true. In fact, let me tell you that the budget of the Office of the Prime Minister, more than 90% is spent on special programs. And for us who are responsible for coordination and monitoring and evaluation, have less than 10%. So really, do you expect us to be effective, to do as much as we are expected to do with those resources? So that's the first part of the question. The second question was on the Apex. I think Mr. Moderator and the members of the panel, any innovation, any idea to try to improve what we are doing and to improve the way government functions is welcome. But maybe what we need to discuss in detail is how effective is the new proposal going to be in terms of causing change and improving things. And I think that's the purpose of this forum today. So I think we all look forward to your contributions. You critique what we do, but more importantly, give us recommendations on how we can take this forward. And there's a good opportunity now that we're going to NDP 3. I think there's a good opportunity to do things differently. We have had 2 NDPs, we also had the BIP, 3 of them. We have the experience of what we did well and what we did not do well in that period. We have definitely improved in certain areas. For example, in the Office of the Prime Minister, one of the things we do is we coordinate the implementation of barazas across the country. And these barazas generate a lot of information, evidence on service delivery. We package this information and send them to the respective institutions to implement. But Mr. Moderator, somebody is interfering, I don't know whether you're getting my points. The challenge we find is that despite the rich volume of information that we collect in terms of implementation of government programs through these barazas, very little is done to implement the recommendations. In these meetings, the community makes good recommendations which are practical in terms of addressing their concerns. Our responsibility is to package this, pass over these recommendations, and somebody should enforce. However, it depends on the level. For example, many of the
So
issues.
the role of OPM is what?
Let me explain. Many of the issues are supposed to be implemented at the sub-county level. Okay? So, yes.
Be clear.
Yes. Now, at the sub-county level, we have, for example, an LC3 chairperson. Do you know those guys are doing nothing? They are asleep, they are not aware of their roles, they are of the roles they are supposed to play, they are not even playing 10% of the roles they are supposed to play. When you go to the district level, there are several responsibilities for the CAO, the RDC, the LC5 chairperson. All those people have responsibilities to enforce the implementation of these paragraphs. There are a few high-level policy issues which we bring to the attention of the respective permanent secretaries. Those you can challenge the center. But the majority of the service delivery issues at the local government level is the responsibility of the local government leaders. And really they are not doing their work. So that's what we are saying. If the Apex arrangement is coming to introduce new energy in terms of at least enforcing implementation of the recommendations of the evidence that we generate out there, then it is a welcome opportunity and we should work to improve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are, of course, online. This platform debate or conversation is being shared out there. Our Twitter handle or Twitter hashtag is Apex Platform 19. For those of you who are tech savvy, you can involve others in this conversation. Perhaps they will throw us a few ideas. Apex Platform 19. 19. I want now to bring in the EU, but also I understand Parliament was supposed to be represented in this panel. Do I have any member of Parliament who's willing to say a word or two on this? Because Parliament has been also instrumental in guiding on how we should do it. Yes, honorable member, you're welcome. You can, there is an empty seat there. Yeah, thank you. But I want to bring in the EU. You are playing a very fundamental role as development partners. The last time I checked, in my own interaction with you, and the presenter also brought out this, you were saying that you were a bit not happy that most of your advice on how to improve performance, how to improve delivery of services not taken on. So are you excited with this platform that now the government partnership, which is on the other side of the fish, can as well be able to influence this bigger or the main side to ensure that we have results?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First of all, I would like to say that compared to everybody else on this podium, I'm probably woefully unprepared to sit here and make remarks. I wasn't aware that I would be here this morning, on this podium at least. I'm not sure what quote you when you said that the EU or other development partners are frustrated that our recommendations are not taken aboard.
It's a research report, and also we will see the results later, but also there has been the same comment by the presenter that a number of players on this other side of the fish, they are saying government is not taking on the advice as effectively or adequately as they should to improve performance. Are you satisfied, in other words, with the government performance and implementation and modus operandi?
Maybe I start by saying that I'm still a little bit confused with the fish analogy. To be honest, I think I need a little bit more time to look at that. And I'm also not quite clear with where these development partners, the civil society, research institutions are placed within the fish. These are all puzzle pieces contributing to the greater picture. This is at least how it should be. we all make contributions to Uganda's development. We are guided by the government's own plans, 2040. We're guided by the National Development Plan. And that's actually something that I want to underline also as a comment or a response to what Dr. Muvawala said. As at least the traditional development partners, we are guided by the government of Uganda. We don't come here with resource envelopes and ideas and say, okay, we want to do this. If you don't want to do it, we can't work together. We are guided by the National Development Plan and other documents, and this is also why we have taken such a keen interest in recent months to be part of the development of the National Development Plan 3. If you allow me a couple of comments to what was said, I think the realization that maybe one of those puzzle pieces is missing is a good one. And of course, as has been spelled out, it's the prerogative of the Office of the Presidency to assume that oversight function. Of course, we fully support that, but it's important, as has also been said by other speakers, that we find a way to address maybe what is missing with the correct fit. So we need to not just institute another forum, another meeting that many of us attend and spend time on, and then everybody goes home to the respective institutions and we continue with business as usual. I don't think that would help us very much. That's the first comment. The second comment that I would like to make is that, of course, a lot of conversations about monitoring, about the impact of the work of all the different stakeholders are taking place. But maybe we need to strengthen the fora in which these conversations are already taking place. For example, I was representing development partners yesterday at the Justice, Law and Order annual review, where of course civil society participates, but maybe they could have a bit of a more prominent role, because as we heard, civil society's responsibility is also monitoring the implementation of programs. We have a good example, and I'm looking at my colleague from CS-BAG in the PEMCOM, the Public Expenditure Management Committee, where CS-BAG, representing civil society, makes a statement at every meeting right after the chair, which is the PSST or deputy PSST, and the representative of the development partners. And we have some of the sector working groups where civil society is given that role, or is given, I would say, the space to adequately fulfill their role, and it's working a little bit less well in other sectors. So I think we need to acknowledge that we should strengthen those fora where discussion is already taking place, and of course the apex that we are discussing now is then one additional element, but shouldn't be replacing those discussions that necessarily need to take place at technical and, let's say, middle management level. In the whole conversation, and that brings me back to the start of the presentation of why we might need this Apex Forum. It was a lot about public investment management, what is going wrong, and why is the country taking loans that for some years are not productive because projects are not implemented, so there's an issue of absorption. Of course, in the government of Uganda's current public financial management reform strategy, public investment management is a focus area, and there's a lot of work being done by the government, including supported by development partners, to work on public investment management. We have the development committee, which has a role in appraising projects. I speak from my own experience, because sometimes we fear that we have agreed with the government on projects to be funded from the European Union, only then to hear that, okay, we have this agreement generally, but now we need to still go to the DC to seek the endorsement there. So we have existing processes and existing functions And I think we would do well to look at those first and see how they perform, how they need to be strengthened before we then invent maybe something else. Of course, we also know, and that's political economy, that some projects undergo a greater scrutiny, I would say, than other projects. So that's also the reality that I think we're all aware of.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Member of Parliament, first you introduce yourself, but also to give us an idea of what Parliament you think should take this platform, how it should take it. But specifically, I want to ask you a question. About more than 20 years ago, the Parliament you are sitting in decided that in Uganda, service delivery in most areas will be under the ambit of local governments. There are local governments that deliver. It's a decentralized kind of model we are using. But on the apex, I'm not seeing the Ministry of local government, I'm not seeing the local government. So are we going to sit at the top with our fish discussing how things are not working, and the people who are supposed to implement them are not anywhere on the table?
Yes, thank you, Ramadan. For introduction, my name is Iruko Charles. I am a member of Parliament from the county and district. I also sit in the budget committee and the committee of finance. Prior to politics, I worked in government. I was an auditor in the office of the Auditor General for 20 years. I know I audited the office of the Prime Minister. I hope that you won't have a conflict of interest. I audited the office of the Presidency. I don't know, maybe that's the reason I was invited here, because when I saw the list of the members of Parliament invited, many of them were heavyweights, members of the committees of finance, economic planning. I was the only small man around. However, let me bring apologies from my colleagues. We happen to be in interchangeable committees, and those committees are doing a little urgent work now, and some of them are out of the country on the bench now for the bills that we urgently need. Well, when I listened to Vincent's presentation, it was wonderful. Something came to my mind that at least today, I am with Ramadan on the same page, because we have always clashed with me on defensive and Ramadan weeping. But today we are all on the same page, trying to see how service can be made available to our citizens. When Vincent was presenting eloquently, this looked his own paper anyway, although in the beginning he had a disclaimer that he's presenting somebody's paper. But the way he was eloquently delivering it is either he has been part of the problem or he has sat on the problem for so long that he doesn't want it to explode. It has become a time bomb that he doesn't want it to explode and consume him. He has decided to bring it through Apex. Nonetheless, let's see what is happening, right, and face it clear. Ramadan, you said it's clear. We did that. And what is happening now is what you see. The people who are supposed to deliver, who are supposed to implement, so that service delivery is seen, are the ones complaining. These are the ones who say in Parliament, what? Gave the mandate long time ago. My colleague, my friend here, whom I understand very well, and I always sympathize with when he's working, I understand this man has said it all. He has said it all. Something he has said it all. We always blame him. We were talking about compliance. He's the one who issues compliance certificates whenever budgets are brought to us, and he says things are okay. I'm surprised when you come here and say there's non-compliance. Maybe His Majesty will tell us why they comply when certificates come and then they're not compliant. I'm also happy that you are not talking about Parliament not appropriating money. You are saying money is there, but it's the utilization. I don't think this is the first time you come to understand that utilization of funds has been bad in this country. Those of Ramadan have always told you about this, have told us. You have always brought loans to Parliament for approval. And you have said Parliament delays the loans. Again, we are being told that loans are applied without exception of projects. What is this nonsense? What is that information you give us to approve projects about? We want to borrow money. You say, bring the information. You bring the information. And then later they tell it's not implemented because it's not accepted. What was it ghost information to get the money to maybe invest in fixed accounts or what? Please, let's understand. This looks like a quagmire. What are we doing? Auditor General here in where I used to work anyway, issues value for money reports. Do you know value for money reports? Rather than a kind of research reports, which identify what the project was supposed to have done and why it failed to achieve, highlighting even and pinpointing the people who should be taken care of because of failure of such projects. What has it been done? Even Parliament, we get your reports. When we get your reports, we also make recommendations. Where do our recommendations go? I hope we are just not sitting here because we are about to go to the trenches so that people start thinking that we are getting serious, when actually we are not serious. Let's better get serious if people out there have to get services. This is not new. What has been presented here is not new at all. It's an old song. Maybe we change the instruments.
It's coming from a very good musician.
Maybe we change the instruments.
No. It's coming from the presidency.
What is happening?
That's new.
People have been reported for having squandered the money. What have we done to them? They are walking in the streets. They are in their jobs. The economists said it all. What have we done? If this is what Apex is going to recommend and it's implemented, maybe something will work. Will happen. But if people are going to be given money, they implement nothing, and at the same time they walk in the streets, please, let those voters finish voting and remain what they are. Don't come and deceive them in your workshops. Like you did rightly say, that somebody was trying to allude that you may just be still calling us very early in the morning, making us give our comfortable beds to come here to sing the same song, and people think out there that we are doing anything. We are not. Let's wake up from
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable. I want to open the conversation to you as well. You come into it. The members in the audience, you raise your hand, you bring a mic, you say your name, where you work, and your contribution in at least 2-3 minutes, such that we are remaining with only 1 hour to wind up the conversation. Apex. There's a lady there, with the mic, another lady, wonderful. 2 ladies first, then the 2 gentlemen. I'm going to take 5 questions first. So the 2 ladies, the 2 gentlemen, the last one, the 5th. There is also my good friend, the head of entrepreneurship at our national resistance movement.
Thank you so much, moderator, and our presenter from the Office of the President and the panelists. I'm glad to be part of this meeting. My name is Josephine Watera, and I head the Monitoring and Evaluation Division in Parliament. Sitting and listening through from the presentation by our Director, Office of the President, I keep thinking that you are the reason of the failure. One of the things like we are always struggling with, and I'm still seeing here a part which is saying output directives are actually those directives. When you look at the Government Assurances Committee and the many assurances that have been made there, you find that they're actually outside the priority of NDP. When we talk about NDP, I thought ideally it should be a Bible, that we should be referring to it every time we want to do anything. A quick example of Zambia is that even if the president is going out there to throw a government assurance, the implementers, in this case now it will be the director of mine, have to ensure that that assurance is in the NDP. If it's not there, they tell him, thank you, sir, for bringing the assurance and promising this in this place. However, we carry this forward to NDP 3, in this case. But as long as we keep distorting the plan after we have taken a long time putting down plans, and then we don't implement this plan as planned, we make the good brains of NPA look like they did not do anything. That's where our problem starts from. The good thing, we have also observed that everyone is asking that someone somewhere is not doing their work. We make recommendations, and that's why when we're being told that there's no one who is monitoring, Parliament actually is monitoring this intake, how much the fish is eating, and its digestion. But when the recommendations come out of Parliament, and we think that we all have goodwill, want to make this country better, who is this person who is not implementing these recommendations? Again, it is going to be my director and Office of the Prime Minister, and maybe NPA to some extent, and maybe finance. Again, you find that there's again a long chain of people in that line who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So when I look at GAPA, for example, I'm finalizing with that. When we're allocating and we're saying that the findings have come out, because now we're talking about evidence-based planning and budgeting. When findings come out of GAPA and the report that is tabled in Parliament for the implementation of the NDP, we expect that these findings should be reflecting the next budget. That ideally we should have a sector that has either gone up and another sector that maybe we drop. Of course, security will never want to touch it, but every time it's done that, you'll find that money keeps going in there in terms of extra supplementary budgets, and of course State House. So where is our use of this evidence when the information has finally come out? So again, who is not using this information? It will be the Office of the President. Thank you.
Thank you for that diagnosis of the problem. I think the director represented will answer you. In fact, the lady, another lady there, then you come to the two gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm Dr. Azza, a managing partner at Lifeline International Consultants and a researcher at that. The discussion, thank you the panelists, the discussion is interesting because these are things that sometimes we wonder as non-state actors. What is going on? Everyone is throwing accusations. NPA is saying something different, finance is saying something different, OPM is saying something different. Where do we converge as ministries? Where do we converge as government? Those are things that are supposedly causing the so-called duplication, which ideally should not be duplication, but because of lack of harmonization in the process, then everything is called duplication in the process. But as they are going forward, I found this Apex interesting in that someone was asking, after the presentation of reports, where is the follow-up in the process? My thinking would be that at the Apex level, instead of OPM saying local government is not doing its work, you have LOC3s doing nothing. Then what is the role of OPM in the first place? To really make sure that local government is doing its job in the first place. So what I liked about this Apex is that OPM is presenting a report from an informed perspective of the sector. If you are saying it's local government, then wherever OPM is presenting should really be informed by the local government itself. Meaning that OPM is speaking on behalf of the local government at that space. And then if that is the case, the discussion then should not only be just reports, but after the discussion, where is the point of conversion? What I see is that the independent, you call it, the Office of the President called it a long thing, the independent, high-level independent assessment, something, which is ideally going to, at one point, contradict what probably someone else will be saying, but it's good. It's good for government business. Then it means that the in charge of this country will then take direction and say, okay, while OPM is reporting that local government has achieved ABCD, this is what ought to be done. Probably then we need to have the next, maybe Apex would be a follow-up on what happened last time, where has progress progress been made as far as the hiccups were concerned at the other level? And how then do we move further? I mean, those are processes that probably need to come out clearer as far as the APEC is concerned, but I believe it is a point of conversion that will bring all of us, as far as government is concerned, the big four, to try and harmonize issues at this level. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The gentleman there, from your table. No, here. I will come to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Onesimus Eli Telaloy, and I'm from Beck Consult Limited. We are from the private sector, and I'm happy to be here, present to my colleagues. Back to the Apex. I have heard everybody giving his opinion, both here and before. But what should go on in our minds is that the economy is a holy ground. Many times, why we fail to match the two is because the public sector has a different thinking from the private sector. And yet, a strong public sector should thrive from a successful private sector. So when we talk about service delivery, usually, it's about mainly fulfilling a job and not aligning service delivery to the contribution to the economy. That's where we get a mismatch. Back to the Apex, we have, the President talked about it as a worry that we may as well have the main deliverable as being reports. But what I see with government bureaucracy, just to help us not get back to where we were, and like the MP has said, that is equally worried that we could be coming back to the same story. I am suggesting that the Directorate come up with a standard template for how projects must succeed, because there are good examples elsewhere where public projects have been very successful. These kinds of examples should be drawn and consolidated into a template for all the sectors, such that we don't just come back to evaluate a project after 3 or 4 years to understand whether it actually ministered to our impacts, the anticipated impacts and outputs. But from the word go, key stakeholders, decision makers, contractors should know how to move on that template. And that will help us probably also help the Directorate go straight to the point. Instead of us coming back later after 3 or 4 years and then just do an evaluation and then say, okay, let us take it to somebody to make a decision. What if this person who is going to make this decision will be so busy for another 2 or 3 years, yet we have already spent money? Okay, so I would rather have us kickstart straight away, go straight out to the business by saying, contractor so-and-so, a decision maker so-and-so, you are giving out this job, this is what we want you to do. Because from our template, if you do the following things, we shall be able to achieve our impacts and outputs. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Give it to your neighbor behind you. No, behind. This way.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kenneth Ati. I am representing the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Public Service. And like the representative of OPM said, that and I think Dr. Mvawara, any effort that is attempting to improve the challenges that we're facing now. However, we need to exercise caution, not to reinvent the wheel, because it requires energy, resources, and time, and we don't have much of that.
Kindly step up your
Yes, I'm saying that we shouldn't reinvent the wheel because it takes time and effort and resources, and we don't have much of that. So having said that,
where are we reinventing the wheel?
That's what I'm coming to.
Okay.
I would like to focus on the concept of the apex and the structure. We already have in place frameworks like GAPA, PACOB, Presidential Roundtable, and many others, and sector reviews and things like that. And all these are efforts towards improving government. But in particular to the apex, I would like to address myself with the structure. The structure. When Director was presenting, he said that the apex will be a subcommittee of cabinet. Now, to the best of my knowledge, the highest policy-making organ in this country is cabinet. So there cannot be a sub-cabinet. That will already create structural problems and decision-making problems. So I think that that needs to be addressed so that we have a clear framework. The other question that you asked was, what value are we bringing to this process? And I think that is a fundamental question. The apex should be able to help us to harmonize and bring together the coordination that has been lacking in this country so that we can have focus. And focus on the issues to do with results, issues to do with creating the change that we want to see, improving on people's livelihoods. We need to be able to see that, bringing discipline in government. And so I see the apex as an opportunity to create the order that has been lacking, and also to provide meaningful space for all Ugandans and development partners to participate in the development process. This has been lacking, and as he rightly said, civil society and private sector are not going to be part of this sub-cabinet. So where do they, at what point do they come in? And I think it is high time that we created a meaningful space platform where all Ugandans can participate. Government is held accountable, there is transparency, there is contribution or participation for every Ugandan to be able to participate. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Taking the mic to Dr. Ukali.
Thank you, Ramadan, and thank you, members, Robert Ukali. I want to air my views again to what Mvora said and my colleague in the private sector. I have like 4 issues which I picked from Mvora, from what he said. One, we have a challenge of constitutionalism. A constitution made by Ugandans, we are Ugandans, the people who made it, we can amend it. What's the problem? Governmentism, the rep of the president of the PS has just mentioned it. My brother Mvora, it's unfortunate in that panel there's no private sector. My invitation says state actors and non-state actors. Civil society, yes, but it remains a civil society. The private sector, if we are to develop this economy, if we are to monitor our own government implementation, unless we promote the private sector, we shall be rotating in governmentism, in carrierism. And I will talk about it just briefly. Most of our CEOs, most of these government officers, they only remember what to do, and I'm sorry, not all, but most. So if you are not part of the all, you are happy, and don't blame me. Most of them, if the contract is coming to an end, that's how they perform very well because of renewal. The moment he or she is appointed, then it is framework, constitution, parliament, they embed themselves into the law. But who made this law? Mr. Mvora. Apex should be part of a think tank to see what we can amend within the law. It is our law, a Ugandan law. And it has been, negative impacting to all our Ugandans in terms of mindset. That's why you find, unless you're employed by government, or youth, or graduates, they are looking for jobs in the government because of the same mindset, and now Apex can help us with that kind of mindset change. However, you will not help us if we are also thinking again within the government. Like what the PS has said, if it is a subcommittee of cabinet, for God's sake, the biggest number I would propose should be the private sector. The private sector, they are the ones who are contractors, as he said, they are the ones supplying. Government expenditure, 60% or 70%, if I'm right, is of the government expenditure is on procurement, or disposal, so on and so forth. And it's not done by government officers, it's done by the private sector. So which part of our country should we be engaging in this Apex? About the Apex, also, we need other players. People are saying we should not duplicate, we should not do what, but strategically we should have oversight offices like the Auditor General, IGG, or Kano Nakarema. They should be part of this. So that when we talk, or when you talk, there is direct connection. Who was supervising what? Who was implementing what? Otherwise, I wouldn't be happy with reports again, and people have talked about them. Instead of reports, discuss and agree who is going to implement.
Are you not running the risk, Doctor, of creating another parallel government when you get so many of those other government
No,
people?
it is, yes, Gobi, it's deliberate. When you have 10, actually you've guided me well, make also alternate members. If you are meeting, how often, I don't know, every quarter or every 2 months, say for the first quarter of the first 6 months, we shall deal with these government offices, local government and so on and so forth, and engage them up to last minute or last mile, then pick others. Otherwise, we'll end up in 2 reports and many people have talked about the matters again. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to come back to the panel and answer those, but I will start with the presenter. There's a fundamental question they asked. For actual questions, I would like you to first clear them, and then I come to the panel. Give the mic to the presenter. Actually, you should have sat here. You are the owner of this fish. One expert, sir. The mic is.
Yeah, thank you, Director of Ceremonies and the experts on the panel. The questions are a mouthful. I will attempt to answer them. Apex versus delivery unit. It's like comparing a goat to a cow, or a goat to a sheep. The two are different, the mandates are very clear. And I think the executive director put it very clear. Whereas the delivery unit was created to work and with the Office of the Prime Minister and coordinate implementation of government projects and programs in the Office of the Prime Minister, the Apex is for uptake, learning, and evidence-based decision making. In other words, it is basically focusing on outcomes and impact. And the delivery unit actually is supposed to work proactively. I hope we are together. It's supposed to work proactively, help the Office of the Prime Minister. You see, when I see my brother Timothy saying, you go to the local government and the local government are not, it is the Prime Minister's office supposed to make this person at the local government do what he's supposed to do. Because the Office of the Prime Minister is responsible for government business, and it is supposed to coordinate effective implementation of all government programs right from the grassroots to the center. So to me, creating mechanisms that would effect service delivery at the sub-county, at the county, at the district, it is the Office of the Prime Minister to come up with those mechanisms to work with the respective ministries and ensure that service delivery is improved. And what would be required, actually what we would be interested in are those reports actually giving the immediate outcomes of the interventions and possibly the intermediate before we run to Dr. Mufawala to ask for the impact reports. But we are saying, if we are not doing it, we shall do it. And I think that one is very clear. The mandates are very clear. The office of the president is the overall leader. You cannot dispute that. And the presidency is big. Everybody is employed by the president, as the director clearly stated it. And the program we are coming up with, the Apex, is that because we lack a platform where the four big brothers in the government can meet face to face with the HE, the president, and tell him the truth. I think I need to be very clear with that. But you only see everybody trying to make his own appointment. We are saying, meet the president as four. And talk, read from the same verses of the Bible. Do not bring in issues of unemployment when another one is talking about issues of salary increment. So, if you are talking about salary increment, it is salary increment. If you are talking about employment, it is unemployment. So I think I will also again make a round on the Apex platform. Where it looks like it was not properly understood. Then on the supplier driven, I think I have made a distinction about the delivery. I'm glad the Professor Solomon is coming in. There's a fundamental difference between what this Apex is going to deliver and what the delivery unit does. And actually would love to use the reports of the delivery unit through the report of the office of the Prime Minister's office to the Apex. I think the framework is very clear. Then supplier-driven projects, I do not agree with my brother in the Ministry of Finance. Well, you may say, I do not understand this, but as a Ugandan, I think we should, these pressures of, how can even, you allow even a development partner trade for your proposal? Surely. Is it, if it's a problem of capacity, then can we do the capacity, can we build the capacity? You see, what this model is trying to address, I don't know how to put it, my point. There is one here. That one. Now, this 50 knowledge we are talking about, you know, the problem we are having at the initiation stage, we are saying the plans, like now we are going for program-based. We have discussed this at least with the executive director. Can we have plans, those still plans that are coming, that are going to form the NDP3, come with baseline figures? Can we have them clearly stated with clear indicators of performance? So that at the end of the day, it will be these performance indicators that the doctor will be trying to measure from the impact levels. And we are saying if these plans are coming in without baseline service, then you risk even measuring what these interventions have caused. And now, if these interventions are very clear, and they have surveys, they have baseline data, and the indicators are very clear, and they have been streamed through the budget to the sectors, then we should see what OPM is trying to do with the sectors is basically to respond to those indicators. So that even when OPM is reporting at the GAPA, we are seeing those indicators being reflected. Or when my sister here, Margaret, is doing, which is doing very well anyway, at the Bamau, we see her at least reading from these indicators. But what we are failing to understand as the people who are interested in the results is that Some interventions have no baseline studies, and it becomes very difficult to even measure their level of implementation. So this is problem number one. Now, problem number two, still here, is that let capacity be built for planners, both at the local government and in the central government. And let us see planners planning for the districts. Let us see ministries planning for their sectors, not finance planning for them. Because what we are seeing, and we have voices of people, planners in the sectors, who are saying, when we take this proposal to Minister of Finance, they come to us and tell us, we want you to fund this. I mean to do this. And we are saying this is not good. We need to work with finance and National Planning Authority to see how best we can harmonize. Because once we get the planning not right, it is very difficult to even have it at the implementation level, neither will you find the impact or results from this intervention. So,
thank you. One more. I don't want you to present again.
Well, the issue of M&E. M&E is across, I agree with the ED. M&E is seen as like M&E is a function of everybody. Whereas we look for baseline monitoring surveys here we are interested in the budget, monitoring and evaluation. And here we are interested in implementation, monitoring and evaluation, which should actually give us an indication of the immediate outcomes and maybe intermediate. And then here we are interested in the results and impact. There was something to do with feedback of the apex. Is it going to be like any other? We are saying for the subsequent platforms, the Minister of State for Economic Monitoring is here. You can talk for himself. The understanding or the framework is that he will necessarily be giving a status, an implementation status report of the previous pronouncements. The questions are many, but I think there are so many people to...
Thank you. And I want to involve more. The panel has spoken a lot. I would want to get more feedback first. For here, I want you to bring that to Bridget, and then we come to Professor Solomon, who has just walked in. Professor, I want you to be thinking on a very fundamental question which has been asked here. That OPM, contrary to its constitutional mandate, is engaging more in implementation these days, and as a result is getting distracted from doing the work that you are monitoring at the delivery unit. You find a number of ministries in the OPM, but we had invited a dangerous substance, having, who tried to explain, but we shall need your view on this. So be thinking on it. When we come back from the questions, I'll start with you, sir. Okay, start with the... Then you go behind there. There is a person first time.
Thank you so much, moderator. I am actually been part of the Apex platform for Uneta, but I'm not saying this because I'm part of that. This microphone is not the best. Maybe I use the other one. Thank you so much. The chief planner is out, but I wanted to ask him, because you
Chief planner, kindly come back.
The whole problem we are having, Mr. Moderator, in the whole equation is the lack of trust, the lack of networking, and we don't have norms that we respect as a country. And I think that is where the problem is, because I think someone from the civil society was actually saying that the Apex platform framework should develop a template. The template actually should be developed by the Economic Policy and Research Center, and that Policy and Economic Research Center should feed into the Apex platform. Now, what I'm saying is that, but because of lack of trust, you see, one entity or one agency comes up with something like now from OP, and then other members don't respect it. Who are they? We already have our mandate. So I wanted maybe the planner to develop a framework of how can we enhance trust as far as MDs are concerned, how can we enhance networks, and how can we have driving norms so that as a country we have got norms that we should respect, all of us, as much as we have different mandates. I think I am quoting a scholar, I think it was Robert Putnam, who said that unless a nation is driven by norms, by networks and trust, you cannot go forward.
Thank you. Maybe someone will help us to also define the genesis of this mistrust, because that's halfway sort of in the program. There is a gentleman behind there.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Kiburai Mbako. I'm coming from presidency. I had a number of things to make comments on, but the director has articulated them. I wouldn't want to repeat what he has already said. However, I would like to make some comments on one or two areas. I had never known that this Apex Forum will generate a lot of debate. Because in the presidency, when we talk about Apex, we thought we were not talking about a new thing. It's not something new. It's that we have discovered that we have not been doing what we are expected to do. That's true. And we want to convince the rest of the stakeholders to support our observation, not to generate debate. The institutions are already there under presidency, but as the ED has said,
don't suffocate debate.
We have been no.
I want to debate.
Yes, but I'm going to make some clarification. The ED has said it all, that we have been sleeping and we have also realized we had slept. Now, as Office of Presidency, we have woken up. We are saying we have not been working. We have not been doing our mandate. We have now woken up. We want to do our mandate. But we have discovered that some units of government have now taken up some of the responsibilities that should have fallen into our docket. So we are saying, can we make them understand that we had slept but we have woken up? The reason, can we reclaim what belongs to us? The reason we have struggled to use the analogy of the fish to explain to the stakeholders to understand and sympathize with us, blame us for sleeping, but also sympathize with us and give us what we are supposed to do so that public policy, performance and governance is streamlined. I thought that's what we are talking about.
Thank you.
I don't want to talk about other things. Thank you.
Maybe the director will answer whether actually by choosing the fish it was exactly meaning that usually the fish rots from the head. Yes, the gentleman here. No ladies. I usually want to check that conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The take home for me, well, first of all, my name is Kachuka Kato. I'm a member of the governing board of Uganda National Bureau of Standards. Privately, I'm a banker. I've listened intently to the various presentations, and the take home for me is that process realignment, process standardization with regard to management and impact evaluation of government projects and programs is imperative. But going back to the presentation by the director from the presidency, I would request for more enlightenment on the results of the research done on various countries. It seems Uganda, there were some bar graphs in there. Uganda is performing poorly, South Africa better, and so on. What were the exact findings with regard to the miracles there and with regard to the poor performance in some countries, in certain perspectives? Was it capacity gaps, technical, financial, human resources, or so and so on? Was it leadership culture issues? Were they process bottlenecks so that inappropriate processes are applied? etc. I would love to know more about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Behind you there. And one last one. Where is it?
Thank you, moderator. Good. I'm the panelist. My name is Dr. Mulumba Faus, an economist. Now, I would like to drill a little from the characteristics or characterization of developing countries. When we are here, we are pouring all the problems Uganda is facing, making the model a magic wand to solve all those problems. My understanding of this model and the Apex meeting is a confession room in the church. You go there alone, okay? And in this case, the four guys will go to the president with a summary of the issues that need to be addressed, not the entire national dialogue. Okay? We are not reconstituting a national dialogue where everyone, private sector, ghetto, everyone will go there. Okay? But we are saying, perhaps on another forum, but this forum is for four big shots who are meeting the president with critical reports, statistically defended, evidence-based, and saying, before you go on Monday, Mr. President, this has to be done in planning, and this and this. Thank you so much.
Just end it there. Because it was the greatest, I think, moment to tell me exactly what this Apex platform is all about. But there is one key aspect you have asked us, sir, if I come to the panel. The issue of private sector. Uganda is a private sector-led economy. They are suffering with the competitiveness, cost of doing business. Now you are sitting as government, you discuss all the problems of government without involving the people who are going to benefit from these, and they are telling. So are you not scared of getting bogged down by talking to each other about things you know, and yet they could be wrong from what the public wants?
Yeah, you see, the private sector is being engaged at various fronts. I think we are, maybe with the permission of my permanent secretary, the minister, we might have to have another engagement on this thing. Because the private sector is engaged at some stage with the office of the Prime Minister. You know, business is done and coordinated by office of the Prime Minister. And we only, you see, if we were doing, if that, and I'm glad that the executive director said it, if he had all the impact evaluation reports of all the interventions of NDP2, you'll never see the office of the president commissioning an evaluation. What we would be doing would be to look and study the results of those. If Margaret Kagame has done evaluations of budget. You see, we want to see a situation where the plan informs the budget, the budget informs the implementation, then the implementation informs the results. So that us who are interested in the results, we can come and collect these reports, and our work would be to validate the government recommendations and interpretation of the implementation vis-a-vis what the non-state actors are doing from the other space. But if the non-state actors have been engaged at the level of NPA, we do not need to waste that resource. We only need to understand those results and carry them forward. And now we will be going as I don't know whether we are quadrupled. Why not? The private sector is the
non-state is the union.
Yes,
the private sector is a subset.
The government and those private sector do it.
Well, depending on how you define it, because you know the academicians can have their own definition. But from our definition is that the state actors are those working for the state, and then the non-state actors are those who are either directly or indirectly working with the state.
Thank you.
But for the goodness.
Thank you, sir. You can now go and sit, enjoy your tea. Prof, what do you think about this analogy of the fish, how it's going to solve the challenges? And my question I asked, sir, in 5 minutes or so.
First of all, I apologize for coming late. So, I'm not sure I fully grasp the program. But I would like to use a real example of coffee as an example of how the public sector, the private sector, and other stakeholders can come together and have a real result that I think is quite impressive and effective. And let me say that I'm not speaking for the office of the Prime Minister. I'm head of the delivery unit. It's a special unit for working on specific priorities assigned to it. Many people have different ideas of what should be doing, including my friend Mbora. But we were assigned, the President in October 2014 wrote a very strong directive that he wants coffee production to go 20 million bags by 2020. This was in October 2014. And in October 2015, the Prime Minister asked me if we could look at this and see how we could contribute. To cut a long story short, we called meetings with stakeholders. We had a lab to see how this target could be achieved. And we made a roadmap from the lab. But the important thing is that we involved the stakeholders, and secondly, that the Prime Minister used his powers of coordination. And here I'm in complete agreement with Mr. Mbora that the Prime Minister does not implement, he coordinates, and that's a constitutional mandate. Bringing together Operation Wealth Creation, Ministry of Agriculture, Uganda Coffee Development Authority, the processors, the farmers, the federations, the cooperatives, coordinating all these entities. All these are stakeholders who have vested interests in coffee. Now, I had studied the coffee statistics from 1960 to 2007 and found that throughout this period, our average annual export was 3 million bags for almost 50 years. We might go to 4 million once in a while, but on average, 3 million. It is interesting that as I speak, coffee production is at about 7 million bags, showing that a concerted effort by stakeholders, not just government, stakeholders have come to realize that stakeholders are people who have a stake, and it sounds obvious. They have a vested interest in a result. And unless you bring them and their knowledge and expertise and interest to bear on a problem, you're not likely to find much result. So, we have a roadmap. We haven't achieved 20 million bags, but in 3 years, we have doubled the output of coffee, which is 7 million bags, which had not happened before. And I can see us moving in a fairly rapid phase, maybe 2025, 2030, towards this achievement. So first, the example to me teacher says, we need to have clear targets. One of the consultants said it's a proclamation, fine. But when a proclamation is made, it's out there in the future, it's a desired result, maybe by cabinet or wherever. But now there's a missing middle, the theory of change. And you need to find people who have knowledge, who have expertise. If you leave it to government, it will remain a policy in the book, on the bookshelf. Whether it is a plan or whatever, it's just merely a proclamation, a pronunciation. There's no result. And indeed 90% of policies are not implemented. So, and that brings in the point of prioritization. If you have a list of 20 objectives, or policies or priorities, you will not achieve anything. It's politically expedient. Everybody sees they are being announced. The government is interested in them, but that's where it ends. So the debate on priorities is critical. And our finding is that it's an extremely difficult problem because everyone in government is a king unto themselves. Every permanent secretary has his own priorities. And then below him, the commissioners have their own priorities. So now we have a government in which everyone has their priorities, pursue their priorities. A directive comes from the president or wherever, it is put in a file and forgotten. So it's important that when, first of all, of course, that from the top down, there is a clear determination of what is really a priority, something that is critically important to the population, and therefore, because of the great importance of that priority, there is a continuing and constant and frequent checking on its implementation. And in delivery science, in which I'm trying to learn, setting targets, routine checking, every week, in some cases every day, checking, getting the data, is critical to getting things done. But this idea that you debate or set a policy and you announce, and then you think that things will get done, this is not realistic. It won't happen. So prioritization is important, methodology is critical, and I believe that engagement of stakeholders on an ongoing basis is also extremely important. This means that in most cases, the things that government says to do will not get done until we have a capacity to agree on priorities and then to stick to these priorities day in and day out. Even then, my efforts are being continuous and being put to work on China and industries and so on, and I have to resist because if I move away from the priorities, I will fail. I don't have time to go into other things we are doing, but I believe that government needs to decentralize down to the parish level, where the people are, small units, collect data on a continuous basis at that level in order to be effective and to be relevant to the people. Otherwise, we're just playing up in the air, saying government, government. There is no government, just in the air for the people until you come down to where they are and you have data on them and you have made a delivery chain that connects you to them in terms of data and supervise and so on. You continue to talk about the government, but it's just purely air. Thank you.
So, Prof, before you go, what exactly is stopping OPM, Ordinary Delivery Unit, from effectively doing what it is supposed to do? And do you think the Apex platform is an opportunity for empowering the Big Four to ensure that you coordinate your effort and you make that important agency in government, the delivery unit and OPM by extension, to do their work? What is stopping you from doing it effectively? And I know that there are a number of things you've done, but perhaps you and yourself are not very much satisfied with them.
Well, I said that prioritization is important. We've been working on coffee, we've been working on absenteeism in UPE, teachers, UPE, because we found the literacy rates over the last 10 years or so were about half. Half of the pupils are failing, reading and writing, and numeracy. We said, how can we solve this problem? There are many causes of illiteracy or failure in literacy. And we said, let's start with teachers being in class at UPE level. We started with 22 districts in the east, and we've managed to raise teacher presence to 96% in 2019. The figure we have now is 96% in those areas. We tried also with health worker presence in 250 hospitals or so and health centers in those 22 districts. We were supposed by the FID, we introduced the biometric machines, check presence, and we're encountering incredible resistance. Machines are being destroyed by the people who are supposed to use them, or they deliberately don't cooperate. So we have to put in place mechanisms for making sure that they work. But in brief, the main hindrance, I think, is the resources. For example, where we found that we can cut down absenteeism in the 20 district, one spread out to the rest of the country, and use the technique, the knowledge we have learned, but the resources are very limited. I don't think so. Resource limitation and prioritization. You can't do everything.
Thank you. 1 minute finance. Let us start from there. You are here saying OPM is going to do the work. The agency open but the same way the resources are not planning enough, is not delivering enough. Instead, it's taking resources elsewhere. So how do we, but also conclude in 1 minute?
Yeah, just in a minute. And I will just use that minute to end my thoughts on a sovereign note, because finance, I want to steer away from controversy. And that's why I should say that the work of this Apex generally was a result of the cabinet paper we worked on, and Vincent, you know that. A few additions came, and finally the cabinet approval on that paper included the Apex. So the genesis of this work was actually the reform around public investment management, which are championed by finance. And really, you can see that that's the value addition that resulted into this Apex. So the impression should be that we support the Apex. However, Yeah, you are the economist, and you have two hands, as they say. On the other hand, from the treasury perspective, new initiatives cost money, and you must demonstrate that clearly the Apex fundamentally adds value to government and is not duplicative, creates synergies, because like you heard from Dr. Surma, privatization, resource limitations are real. These are not mysterious things, but they are real. So if you are saying the Apex is coming on board, and indeed we have seen your proposal for close to 7 or 10 billion to implement this. Similarly, the service delivery unit is not optimally funded. Sectors also are requesting for money for similar initiatives. So there is competition and stiff competition for resources to do the same things.
Thank you.
So I end on that note.
Thank you. Dr. Mawala, summarize in 2 minutes. Actually, you are the one who said it's okay to have monitoring everywhere, but you see the resources are constrained.
Because monitoring is a tool. I maintain it is a fact. People must, it's a management tool, people must use it at all stages. We shouldn't be taken because of resources. We say it is a duplication. Because you are poor, you should not say eating meat is a bad thing. It's not a big problem. For me, I am very steady on this matter. Monitoring is a management tool, everybody must use it. For me, the bottom line, let us not even talk about the Apex, but talk about the President's office. The fundamental role of that office is oversight. The Apex is simply a tool. You can turn this tool around, you can improve it, but you cannot deny the President's office their role of oversight. So whether we have money or not, we created the President's office, and its role is oversight. It is critical that we finance it. At the same time, I agree with my brother here. The office of the Prime Minister is going to be pushed to implementation. For as long as all the money we give them is implementation. We have failed to finance the office of the Prime Minister to do coordination and M&E. What we are financing them to do are special programs. I would be a stupid leader to allow special programs to go out when tomorrow I have no fuel to go and work. Because our assessment has been, when you look at the World Triangle, for example, program, money for where? The minister does not have money to go to the field. So most of the money which is supposed to go to where is being used for fuel. Isn't that what is in the compliance certificate? That's what is there. So for the Prime Minister to survive as an office, they must continue implementing. The solution is we provide them enough money to do their core mandate. Then they will be persuaded to let those other things go. Apex. Yes, I want to say this. So for me, I am praying that a lot of these things, we have been talking about the private sector, there are failures below that are causing people to clamor. The National Planning Authority, it's their mandate to work with the private sector and civil society to assess government. But in 15 years of their existence, and I'm the leader, we have not put in place a system for bringing this to bear. It's not a fault of the president. It is and I'm not going to say it is just money. It cannot be money all the time.
Human wickedness.
Sometimes we concentrate on other things. It's now time for us to concentrate on the things. Where we have failed, we should accept it.
Thank you, sir.
Let us let the presidency do its work.
Member of Parliament, 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Ramadan. Ramadan, for us politicians, we pride in seeing people happy. So if Apex has come to make sure that our citizens are happy, we are good. But the apex of the apex, there must be action. If there is no action at the apex of the apex, it's going to be a problem. Two, I also want to inform the House that I had something about private sector, given that in this country, part of the private sector that we have has a component of being remotely controlled by the state actors. So I don't know how independent pushing the economy, the type of the private
Where you
sector. Anyway, let's say then finally, to our good professor, our lecturer, former lecturer, Dr. Sluma, thank you for informing us that the interventions that you have pushed in, you have been able to rise, say the teacher presence in classrooms and the health officials' presence in health centers. Try also to find out how that has transformed to improved performance and to maybe better. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ezra Monera, since you on the periphery of the fish, 1 minute.
Thank you, Chair. I think I have 3 takeaways. One is the use of research evidence in policy design and the program implementation. And this should be looked at along the whole fish and along the whole life cycle of projects. Because I think we have not, this, to my understanding, this has not been followed to the latter. That's the gap here. Now, the issue of effectiveness of APEX, we are saying what mechanisms and modalities will APEX put in place that will make it different from other platforms that are happening. So it's about now the frameworks, how best are they going to be designed, which procedures and all that, which stakeholders, and then the composition of APEX itself, the capacity in understanding how government works. And there's issues about not only prioritization, but also sequencing of projects. You prioritize and sequence, because when you look at NDP 2 had how many, all that. But the issue of prioritization and the sequencing of projects, because this would like to improve budget absorption. But I think previously, you see government resources, borrowing funds for different projects, multiple projects running at the same time. They have been difficult to monitor and avoid. That's why you look at it, we have the lowest budget absorption in East African sub-region.
Thank you.
So there is an issue.
That's the issue APEX is coming to address. Patrick Chichoncha, CS. 1 minute.
The role of civil society, private sector, and other non-state actors has been emphasized. But as we have heard, entry point for civil society in public policy discussion is still constrained. And I'm glad that the Executive Director for NPA has made that recognition, and we'll be looking forward to seeing NPA starting the process of putting in place a practical framework for civil society engagement with government. Because as it is right now, MDAs are interacting with civil society ad hoc. And in my view, if our role as civil society is going to be meaningful within the framework of the APEX, then our entry points to that process must be very, very, very clear and well understood by everyone. For me, I think that is the most important lesson that we need to take today.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, moderator. I'm glad that you didn't give me an allowance of time so I can speak for as long as I like. Just a couple of comments. We should not pretend to be outraged by the fact that project proposals are developed by consultants. I think we all know in all ministries we depend partly on the work of consultants. It's the same in my home countries, that's just a fact. I think what matters is if the product is then accepted and endorsed and owned by the respective ministry and there's a decision to take this forward. If that's not the case, don't take it forward with the development partner. And just as a footnote, EU projects are grants, so you're not taking a liability there. On the APEX, I think it's sort of crystallizing that this is really the big four speaking together to the president and the office of the presidency. That's very good. I'm German, so I'm normally blunt, and I can't hide that. That opportunity should be used to tell the president, who's chairing, I understand, the APEX, what he doesn't want to hear, or to rephrase that, what these four, what you are afraid to tell the president. Then I think you're making good use of that opportunity. On another point, of course, after you have brought those issues that have been the result of analysis in the MDAs, in civil society, in think tanks, in development partners research, after you've brought those issues up to that level, you need to bring them down again. So the follow-up and the follow-through, of course, doesn't happen at the apex, but needs to happen with the Big Four and then with the MDAs, with the line ministries and so on. And I think that's the day-to-day business in a way, and you need to make that link. That brings me to the last point, repeating what I have said before. Of course, you need to make use of those existing fora, and that's just to support what my colleague from CSBAC said. There are existing fora in some of the sectors, and they work well. They could still be strengthened in other sectors. It's not working so well. We, as the EU, have been on a mission together with the NPA, actually, and a project that we fund to work on this state, non-state engagement for both sides to cross-fertilize and exchange ideas, and I think that's something that we all need to continue to pursue. The same goes for the existing fora that are there to facilitate government development partner dialogue. We have the National Partnership Forum, but it hasn't been constituted in a while. I think the plan was to have it in March this year. Looking at the calendar, I think it's November now. So that's in a way an opportunity that maybe we haven't used so much this year, and that we should go back to and see how to best utilize that. The development partners coordinate to the best of our capacity in our own sector fora and then in the local development partners group. But of course we very much value the dialogue with the government through the National Partnership Forum, which is at the level of the Prime Minister. And I think we need to make use of those opportunities. With the decrease in general budget support, I think we have lost a bit of a forum also for development partners to talk to the government about bigger issues. We've tried to make up for that a little bit, but I think there's still some way to go.
Thank you. Opium, you still want to talk when you are closer? Thank you. There is only one small thing. The private sector man has been on my neck. Kindly take him a mic and I give him a minute. Because you create freedom of the market, liberalize the economy, and then you restrict it through the public sector. That's a contradiction. So the Apex platform should provide a way of how the public sector-led economy will allow the private sector-driven economy to thrive. That is from a man who is not an economist, by the way, Reverend Kano Aaron Mwesiti, Director Ethics at the Office of the President. So what did you say? 1 minute.
Thank you, Ramadan. 1 minute. I just want to share with my brothers from President's Office, especially the Kano and my other brother and Vincent. What Professor Sluma said about the coffee model, and I'm happy I was also part of his committee in that research. What he has been doing as OPM, the coffee model has succeeded because of his involvement with the private sector in coffee business. My brothers, I'm here, I can see the Frederick Albert, the German embassy. Maybe they have funded this function. Maybe
Frederick Ebert Stiftung.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is the part of the German mission. Ministry of Finance has indicated that OPM sometimes does not do what they are supposed to do because of funding. President's Office it's high time you engage with our own private sector, who will not necessarily force you from what they want to do with other external issues, but can facilitate you to do what you want to do as an objective of APEX.
Great.
Otherwise,
You have the
you
money,
will
you don't
be doomed. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My time is out. I will invite the Master of Ceremonies to come. Thank you.
I will allow the panel to disperse. We have come to the closing session. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to invite Mr. Wes Bashasha, Director Manifesto Implementation Unit, Office of the President, to come forward for the closing ceremony.
Good morning. Once again, the Honorable Minister present, Secretary, Office of the President, the experts, and all of you in your respective capacities who have come to join this breakfast dialogue. My name is Bashasha Wills. I work with the Office of the President. And my work is just simple, just to invite somebody who will be closing this discussion officially. But before I invite him, allow me also, as part of the President's Office, thank you so much for honoring our invitation to come and share with us this idea, the concept that we are calling a new thinking, and which I think is all aimed on how best we can be able to deliver to our citizens. I want to put our hands together and applaud the panel of experts who have been able to share with us the insights of the understanding of this concept. We also put our hands together again and thank everyone who has been able to contribute, which I think these words of wisdom that have been picked by the Secretariat or the Directorate that is championing this cause will definitely shape the final product. So, on that note, therefore, I wish to take this singular honor and pleasure to invite you, Honorable Minister, State Minister for Monitoring, Honorable Dr. Kasiribu, to come and give your closing remarks. Once again, thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Director. All protocol observed. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for having accepted the invitation to come and participate in this important conversation this morning. And also thank the Directorate for which I provided political leadership for having organized this conversation. I've got some hope. But also thank the panel of experts which have enriched this conversation. And the moderator who did it very well. Closing this type of conversation, we are closing the conversation of today, but we'll continue with the dialogue until we come up with something that is a bit more acceptable by all stakeholders. If I may borrow words from His Excellency the President, he has always said he has been around for some time. If I could also borrow those words, also been around for some time, and I have witnessed quite a few things happen. Resistance is always normal and it's part of the society. And when you hear people from Ministry of Finance talking this and that, they're not just saying they are okay, it is normal. Some of you might not know that today we have a Budget Act. And this Budget Act was resisted from the word go when it was a bill. It's an act which is helping this country, but it came up as a private member's bill, not even government. And finance tried, I think when Asham, I don't know, was the staff of parliament then, but it said so. The NPA also came up the same way. By the way, this Apex might also help us redefine certain things. Should NPA be in the Ministry of Finance? Or should be under the presidency? That is another conversation we should have. Because when it is under finance, it looks an appendage of finance. And yet, ideally, NPA should come up with plans, mega plans for what the country should be. So, but there it is. But as we progress, you never know. It may end up where it should be, under the presidency, independently, so that it's not under finance and that's what it should be. But as we proceed, the issue is, do we have a problem? The answer is yes, we have a problem regarding subsidy delivery. And at this note, I want to thank Freebert, Ebert, for having funded our conversation. I will tell you, how did this come up? It's true, Minister of Finance came up with a cabinet paper and was trying to find how project should be conceived, praised, implemented, and so forth. And finance has the habit of bringing papers to cabinet late. And that time the luck ran out because they brought the paper and delayed to be discussed. So we went with the paper and I took interest to look at the paper, consulted my technical people, got some notes. So when we went about cabinet, I raised the pertinent issues. And His Excellency said, I think that young man seems to have points. Can this paper be deferred from finance to the presidency? That's how the presidency came in, to take its rightful position. And we set up a technical team. Presidency, OPM, finance, NPA, and that's how the issue of the Apex came up. And we're expecting everybody after cabinet has agreed to be in line. But we have been requesting for resources from Ministry of Finance. Let me tell you, we have not succeeded as yet. One day we are going to succeed. Let me tell you, however good a policy is, however well-meaning a project is, or a program, for as long as it has a very weak M&E framework, from the word go, it has failed. Because M&E helps you define how you are moving. whether your objectives are being achieved. Where you are going wrong, you should be back on track. That's when you have got a good monitoring and evaluation framework. If you don't have, you get lost. And ultimately, you cannot account for your actions. And that's why we have got many projects in this country which end midway, and people keep quiet. Nobody is there to say, by the way, what happened with this project? Because we had a very poor M&E framework for that project. Some of you might remember, there was a very good project called Plan for Modernization of Agriculture. It was the Ministry of Finance. Plan for Modernization of Agriculture, but it was in Ministry of Finance. And I was chairman of the Committee on Agriculture in Parliament, and we had a war with the Ministry of Finance to say, why shouldn't this one be in agriculture? And there was this and that and so forth. At the tail end of the project, that's when they allowed it to go to agriculture. If one was to say, can we have an evaluation report on that PMA, you'll be surprised there might be none. Recently, I was interfacing with the Ministry of Local Government. There is MATIP 2. It's now in its third year and it has not taken off. The reason, they said, but they gave us money and we are not yet prepared. Who gave the money? Who got the money? Ministry of Finance. We are not trying to blame the Ministry of Finance, but we are identifying a problem and we want to solve the problem. There is a project in agriculture sponsored by ADB, Aquaculture. Some of you who go to Musheni, who go to Mbale, Tunguru, Kajansia, white elephant. White elephant. And now the Ministry of Agriculture is getting on another project sponsored by EU. Did they learn anything from the other project? Why? Evaluation, accountability, not there. So maybe the Apex platform could easily help us in mindset change. So how we look at things and how we implement things, maybe would change. We are trying to say, if His Excellency the President sits there, and the Minister of Agriculture is made to account for some of the projects and programs, and the civil society is around, OPM is there, finance will say we gave so much money, and the NPA said, yeah, this is what we thought would be the plan. Maybe somebody will be shy enough to give an answer to the appointing authority. But as you said, we would expect really the President said, no, I think you failed. First go on the side. That's what we think. So, I want once again to thank you for this conversation. And we are not yet done. We shall call you once again as we try to actualize what we think should be done in this country. On this note, I will take this opportunity to again, should we invite you another time, please, when you will come, and we are sure you have got more, you have made more research on what we think should be done and how we can enrich this platform. Thank you, and I take this opportunity to close this conversation.
So Bishop, I think I call you to come to the front and give us a closing prayer. He sent me a note, he said we can't close without it. Then after that we shall have the national anthem and dismiss. But before we dismiss completely, at the front of the Serena Hotel, we shall take a group photograph. So please, a prayer, come forward. This is the prayer for the apex.
I'd like to stand up and pray. Loving Father, as a country, our motto is for God and my country, and we cannot do anything without you. We pray because you created minds, you created intelligence, you created sharing. We want to thank you that this meeting has been able to come to pass. We thank you for the Economic Monitoring Directorate for paving way to do something different, for actually thinking new boxes. We want to thank you, and we pray for survival, because many things have come to pass, but they have not survived the test of time. We pray for your blessings, for your protection, and for your favor. In God I have prayed. Amen.
Photograph at the steps of the Serena Hotel. Thank you very much. Excuse me, just a photo. Documentation that